want to make sure my face is on the re-edited version from now on, guys. That's my only stipulation.
Yes, get in.
Oh, you got the scarf as well.
Oh, no, should have got a scarf.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got my vape.
That's a tea towel, Pete.
I just grabbed whatever was nearest to me and just started waving it around. I love it.
Man,
Love
man.
it. Oh,
Love it.
boys, fantastic. But first, welcome to Loaded Mag, NUFC, Fully Loaded Transfer Show. We are back. And look, as you can tell, we are celebrating, as are you in the chat, no doubt. Eddie Howe's semi-final mags. We made it, boys. How enjoyable was that a watch for you?
No, hang on, Pete. We're still celebrating.
He's from blind. You never ever beat the man. He's from blind. You never ever beat the man. He's from blind. He's from blind. You never ever beat the man. He's from blind. You never ever beat the man. He's from blind. He's from blind. You never ever beat the man. He's from blind. You never ever beat the man. He's
I'm blind. Never ever beat the bird. Okay, that's enough.
Love it. What a guy. But what a performance, boys. What a performance. Look, Daz, I know you got some picks. I know you want to do maybe like a mini review, but just while we wait for Keith, Keith is joining us. He's just finishing a podcast for Hearts, and then he's going to come and join us in a second. He said he'll be on very, very soon. But look, how are we feeling, boys? How are we feeling? Semi-finals of the Carabao Cup.
Excited, Pete. Yeah, no, absolutely amazing. We're in the semi-final draw, which is on later tonight. Like, there's so much stuff happening. That's on as well. So yeah. Come on. Is it Wolves or Forest? That's who I'm hoping for. But we'll take either the Manchester clubs as well. All the way for this one. Absolutely delighted. Bring it on,
Chris. How you feeling? I know you've been working away, but you definitely watched that match last night. What are your thoughts? You still on cloud nine? You still buzzing?
Yeah, do you know what, mate? Absolutely made up. I was a little bit frustrated last night because I had my Sky Go app on and it kept cutting in and out. So like I was watching the game obviously, but I felt like I was missing parts of it. You know, I like to watch all the intricate details, so I was a little bit gutted last night. But I then watched the highlights back, you know, so that I didn't miss anything. But yeah. Absolutely made up, mate. And do you know what? Weirdly, my dad rang me about half an hour ago, and I was talking to him, and he's had a few likes, so he was made up. I think he's still celebrating. And he was saying to me, you know, like it's mad to think, you know, and he's a completely different era to me, and he's like a kid at Christmas. He's absolutely buzzing, and he's saying to me like, oh, you know, it's funny, like even if we don't. We'll see what happens with the draw tonight, do you know what I mean? And we may touch on that in a bit, you know, in terms of who we want, what we're looking for. But just to be, the words he said were, it's just great to be in the mix. And now we're at the top table and we're in the mix. And this is all we've been after, you know, and what a fantastic squad we've got. And, you know, we saw, you know, the stuff on Sky Sports News yesterday, you know, with like in the changing rooms and the lads and the camaraderie and everyone's together. And it's just best feeling in the world, and you know, dead proud of the lads. Think they've done fantastically well, and it's kind of taken away a little bit of emphasis from the league, hasn't it? I don't know about you boys, but you know, some people were questioning, certainly not Newcastle fans, but you know, outsiders saying, would they like top four or would they like a trophy? I think last night shows you what Newcastle fans really want this season.
Both,
you know. Yeah, both. No, absolutely both. But I think, you know, it's been so long waiting for the trophy. What, 1969, and then we get to a semi-final, and I think there's real belief in the first time in I can't even remember how long, that like we can go into this and we can win it. We can win this this trophy, and it's just amazing. Absolutely buzzing.
100%. And look, just to give a little bit of an update, Forest are beating Wolves 1-0, and it's currently 0-0 between Southampton and Man City. So I'm sure people in the chat will keep an eye on that.
I've got the game on. So I'll keep an eye out. You know me with me updates on the ball. On the ball.
We'll get the updates up there. That is for sure. But look, it is absolutely fantastic. You know, in the final four, in the hat for the next round tonight, semi-final. To be in that position is just absolutely class. It really, really is. And look, for me, Geordie Team for Life won't be happy with me saying this, but forget the FA Cup. It's all about the Carabao Cup tonight. I've already mentioned I'm not a massive fan of the FA Cup, not in its current form. Would I take it? Of course I would. But we're in the Carabao Cup, and we've got a chance to win a cup in the semi-final. Let's go all out for it. But look,
and Pete, just for me, it's like the FA Cup match didn't happen, because it kind of didn't. Because for me, and as the lads that know that I was watching the FA Cup, and we had thunder and lightning here in Galway, and the power went for an hour. So when the power came back on, we're 2-1 down, and Chris Wood was bearing down on goal. I'll say no more. So it never happened.
Well, look, actually that feeds right into the question that I want to ask you guys. For me, I want to ask you the question straight off the bat. Obviously we're in the semi-finals of the League Cup, fair enough. But going back to Saturday, what do you make of the Fringe players' performances, and are you concerned with them going into the back end of this season? I want to get your thoughts on this.
Well, mine here will be short, because I didn't get to see it all, and I wasn't going to watch it back after that. Then, but no, they're not good enough. We have been saying it for a while. We said it in a few squad games, and we'll say it again, I imagine, in the summer for the next squad game part 3. But and I think Dan Ashford said it before the game last night. It was great little interview that was on Sky as well. That we need to move some players on. There'll be some out to allow for some to come in. It looks like it looked like that they are going to do something. I know I had a bit of doom and gloom before I thought, okay, are they not going to do anything here? But no, I think from what he was saying, it looks like they are going to do something. But to answer your original question, Pete, no, they're not good enough, I'm afraid. But it was always going to be the case. We keep saying it. It's a project. It's going to take time. You can't just flash a magic wand. We have to work within financial fair play. So we'll take it bit by bit, and we'll enjoy each little step along the way.
Chris, what are your thoughts? I know you watched the game. What do you make of our Fringe players? You got Tiger Studios. Welcome, Tiger Studios, saying Fringe players shite. We need players signed in this window. Would you agree with that one?
Yeah, I don't think he's far off the mark. I mean, the only thing I'd say, Target, is we definitely need to upgrade on the players that we've got on the Fringe, or the underbelly, as I like to call them. Whether or not we'll do that this window, I would argue January is probably the worst time to be doing that. I think January is for reinforcements or for immediate action, if you like. Don't get me wrong, if we sign like a right back understudy to Kid and Trippier, that would work out absolutely fine. But in terms of a big squad overhaul, I would never expect that in January. I think it will be 2, possibly 3 maximum players coming in. But in terms of what I saw from the Sheffield Wednesday game, do you know what? There was no surprises for me. Like we made a lot of changes which surprised some. I understand that, but in terms of performance and what happened, we faced a Sheffield Wednesday side who were in fantastic form. Yes, they're the League One side, but they will have treated that game, as a big final, for themselves. Like, it's a massive scalp to be, beating Newcastle, especially at the minute with all the press on us. But yeah, it just highlighted to me, the number of players that, their time at Newcastle's probably over. Fantastic servants, some of them, but it's definitely time to move on. It's definitely time to upgrade in certain positions. And obviously, when we're missing 2, 3, 4, 5 hopefully not 6 first-team players, that's what we're going to be putting up with. And unfortunately, it's just simply not good enough. You could list, we all know who I'm talking about here, but when you see where those players go, that will tell you everything you need to know. Are any of the top 10 going to be signing any of those players? No. Some of them will be lucky to stay in the Premier League. The majority will go to the lower league, whether that be Championship or League One. But yeah, it was more a tinge of disappointment for me because there was a few players in particular, and the two I'll mention are Jamal Lewis and Elliot Anderson, because for me that was a real big, that was a real big test for them. It was kind of a bit of an audition to say, can you stand up? Can you be in the squad? Can I trust you to perform week in, week out? And I don't want to be too harsh on them because if they were drafted in, Elliot Anderson's going to play a lot better with Bruno next to him. Jamal Lewis is going to play a lot better with Fabian Schär and Sven Botman and Kieran Trippier on the back line with Nick Pope behind him. But I just think some of them, they didn't do themselves any favours, particularly Chris Wood. All jokes aside, that finish is just not. It's just not acceptable, unfortunately. I felt sorry for him, and you could see he was gutted, and I know he was getting a lot of stick, and I can see why he was getting stick, but I did feel a bit sorry for him because I thought you could see how devastated he was, and it's not his. Well, I'm saying it's not his fault that he's done that finish, but it just shows that lack of quality. And for me, I looked back at the end of the game, and I wasn't annoyed, I wasn't angry, because I thought to myself, with this squad, we can't compete on 3 fronts this season. It's too much. And Eddie Howe was absolutely right, prioritising the Carabao Cup because we're so far into the competition. And there's some big clubs that have already been knocked out. Was I happy to go out of the FA Cup? Of course not. But realistically speaking, we're not ready to challenge on 3 fronts. It's not feasible.
Just to think about that, Chris, we mightn't be able to challenge on 3 or 4 fronts next season when we're in the Champions League as well. So just to keep that in mind.
This is it, mate. Eddie's European mags.
There you go. You are absolutely right, 100%. Look, I've got another question for you, but just very quickly, Keith Downie is on his way. He's just finishing a Hearts podcast, and then he's going to come and join us. So stay tuned, because we're holding all the big questions and all the big topics and conversations for when Keith joins us. But look, we've already started a number of questions already that we're going to ask Keith when he comes on. And he is the greatest dancer. You're absolutely right. To see that in the chat. Hopefully we get to see it. But get your questions in if you haven't already for Keith around transfers, around anything NUFC. Make sure you get your questions in. We're going to have a question section with regards to this show. But I just want to come back to your point. You mentioned about Elliot Anderson. I thought he was really, really poor in terms of his overall play on Saturday. It surprises me that he's going to stay at the club long term, because I don't think it's the best thing for him personally. Look, I'm not the best person to say that. Eddie Howe's far more knowledgeable on managing a football club than me. But for me, it looks like he needs games. He needs to play. He can play at Championship level. I think he needs to go out alone. And I wouldn't be surprised if after Eddie Howe's comments before the Sheffield Wednesday game about him staying at the club, that he may change that opinion if we get 1 or 2 players through the door, but because he looks desperately in need of getting football. It's not just about the miss. Youri Tielemans' right. Anderson miss was worse. It was a really poor miss. But
Pete,
go on.
Just to clarify, because in case people take you up wrong, when you say long term, there you mean for this season, not long term. Yeah.
Oh no, not long. No, I mean, look, he needs 6 months of football playing week in, week out. And let's face it, Elliot Anderson could play at the top end of the Championship, playing week in, week out, and that would benefit him more than sitting on the bench and playing the odd cup game or playing the odd 2 or 3 minutes here and there for Newcastle. It would serve him better going and playing some football. But I think we're so light as a squad that we need to keep him. But I think we need to get a couple of players in order to release him, to benefit him for us in the next 2 or 3 years. Jamal Lewis had a rusty start, but I see elements of him that could be good for Newcastle, particularly as an attacking fullback. But again, you could argue that he needs a loan. Matt Ritchie needs to leave the club. The fact that Ryan Fraser wasn't in the squad is a big reason why I think he needs to move on. You know, he can we get some money for him? Hopefully, get him out the club, move him on. From that point, for me, I think Jamal Lascelles, this will probably be his last season. If we get Europe, I think we'll get a top quality centre back to come in and really challenge the likes of Shaw and Botman, and that would allow Jamal Lascelles to move on. It's just not good enough for where we want to go. I don't know what you guys think in the chat. Just not good enough to get to where we want to go as a club. And then
you know what, Pete? Just to throw in there from what you were saying, I think I put a message in our group chat when the game was on about Jamal Lascelles, and it's funny, like when he was next to Botman, there was just a few moments during that game, and the class difference between him and Botman, and then obviously from Lascelles and Shaw, it was like night and day, wasn't it? And the disappointing thing with Lascelles is he's got all the tools, and he reminds me a little bit, and this may be harsh, he reminds me a little bit of Titus Bramble, in that sometimes he'll play decent, or he'll do something and you think, that's right, yeah, that's good. And then within 30 seconds, he'll do something and you go, wow, like what is going through your mind? Or why do you think that's, you know, good? Or why would you choose to make that decision? And he's just, you're right, Pete, he's just not at the level. He's just not at the level that we need to be at. And if we sold Jamal Lascelles now, I think he'd be lucky to stay in the Premier League, I'll be honest.
Yeah, honestly, I'll be honest, in the first half, I actually thought, you know what, he looks like he's improved on the ball. He looked comfortable with the ball at his feet, passing the ball around. I thought, you know what, he looks like he's learned from the players around him. All of a sudden, in the second half, everything goes to pot. And he just positionally, he's all over the place. He's just headless chicken, just all over the shop. And that exposes Sven Botman. Because Sven Botman's doing his normal game, thinking he's got Shaw behind him, that he's like telepathy. They know what they're doing. And he's not. He's got Lascelles who's just running around like, he's just all over the place, just doing his own thing. And it's mad. Now you look at Tuesday night, and it's just like they're clicking. Their telepathy's there, the understanding's there. You know, Shaw goes here, Botman goes there, Botman goes there, Shaw goes there. So many times where they're just, the telepathy just works, and it works so well. And I just think, you know, if we want to go to where we want to go, squad players need to get moved on. Yeah, I'm not gonna hammer Jacob Murphy. I think everybody knows the situation with Jacob Murphy. He needs to move on. But I'll be honest, I'm tired of him coming off the bench.
Yeah, Pete, I've been saying that for months, mate. It's just every time he comes on, it's just like, oh God. And it's nothing against him personally, but for example, and I know we said we weren't going to batter him, and I was, it's 1-0 Southampton.
Get in.
1-0 Southampton. Mate, it's a great finish as well.
No way. Don't do that to me, man.
Great finish. If you get a chance to watch that was a belter finish. It was like a Trippier-esque ball in, and then he just pings it. What a finish.
Is it on Sky?
Yeah. Hang on, who was it? Oh, is it Madja or Mara?
Oh, yeah.
So the ball goes over the top from Ward-Prowse. Ortega comes out, heads it out. It goes out wide. James Ward-Prowse gets hold of it, goes out wide. City have got possession. What happens there? Oh, it's a terrible pass. I think it was Foden. Ball gets whipped in, beats his man, bang. Kyle Walker, terrible defending.
Oh, that's nice for Southampton. Give them a bit of hope there.
Finish that. Oof.
I tell you what.
That's a great finish.
There's a long way to go. Only 22 minutes into the game. But what I will say,
great start.
Oh, that's a great finish. I've just seen it.
Superb.
Seko Mara, who we were linked with in the summer, funnily enough. And we talked about him on the Fully Loaded Transfer Show. What I will say is, and I don't know what everybody in the chat, got nearly 200 in the chat, what do you think? If Man City go out tonight, and look, there's a long way to go in this game. If Man City go out tonight, we can beat anybody that's left in this competition.
Yeah.
Man City are obviously cup specialists. If they go out tonight, we can beat anybody. Would you put us, and this is the question, I'll ask Chris, I'll ask Daz, everyone in the chat, would you put us as favourites for the Carabao Cup if Man City go out tonight? That's the question that I want to ask you guys.
I'm gonna jump in first, Daz. Sorry, because I'm
Go on.
excited here. If Man City go out of the cup tonight, we are favourites. Who's top of the football pyramid out of the teams left?
True, but
And
at the
tell you
same
what,
time,
I wouldn't mind playing Man United. Bring
but
it.
at the same time, I don't want us to be favourites because I'd rather us be underdogs, and then just to show up and do the job. But we probably will be favourites with the bookies, depending on injuries going into getting closer to and who we're playing. But look, let's long way to go in the games tonight first, and then we have the draw, and then we've got a couple of weeks before we get to those. 2 weeks until we get to those games.
Can I just while we're on this subject, can I ask you boys a quick question? And I was discussing this with my dad earlier, and people may think I'm absolutely bonkers saying this. Let's assume that Man City go through tonight. We won't get too excited or ahead of ourselves. Let's assume Man City go through tonight. I was saying to my dad before, and in my opinion, the perfect draw for me tonight would be an away tie. I want to play away first in that first leg, and then I want to go back to St James's for the second leg, because I think the atmosphere for the second leg, even if we lose the first leg away, say we lose it 1-0, the atmosphere at St James's for that second leg will be unbelievable. So I'm hoping for an away tie. And I also said to my dad, I wouldn't mind City in the semis, you know. I really, really wouldn't, because the way I'm looking at it is, I think we can beat them over 2 legs. I think it's doable. And I worry about playing City in the final at Wembley, because City, they've got players who know how to win finals. They're used to it. You know, to them, it's like bread and butter, really, isn't it? And then I think to myself, imagine the confidence if we go and beat City over 2 legs. Imagine the confidence in the players thinking we can do anyone. We can beat anyone. And so what I want to ask you boys is, let's assume City go through tonight. What are you hoping for the cup draw? What would be your ideal cup draw?
Forest. Sorry. Forest. I just want to get one step at a time, because I'd like to see then if let's say if Man City do come back against Southampton, I'd like to see City versus Man United beating the heads of each other, and then we take whoever is the winner out of that. So, but yeah, I'd rather to give us the easier round, Chris, just to make sure we get to the final. I know what you're saying about I don't want to play City in the final either, but just gives the easiest option first.
Yeah. Forest or Wolves, I take. I think in a one-off game, I think we could beat Man United in a one-off game. I think that would be better suited for us to play at Wembley against a Man United or Man City.
Craig's right. Craig's right.
Absolutely spot on. Nobody would want to play us. And you know what? Speaking to Dan Potts tonight, before I came on with his boys unloaded, the one thing he said after watching the game last night, he said, nobody wants to come to St James's Park. He said he could not believe the atmosphere. And they were quite unanimous. They said it's the best atmosphere in the Premier League. Now, you're talking Man United fans, you're talking Arsenal fans, you're talking Chelsea fans. Lawless even agreed with it. Good old Lawless. Newcastle is the best stadium in the Premier League right now. The best atmosphere to be at any ground in the Premier League, bar none. We are setting trends bigger than anybody else. There is no doubt about it. Now, you put that on the second leg of a Carabao Cup, we're ramping it up bigger than what it was last night.
Not 2-0.
2-0.
No way.
2-0.
You're lying to me.
2-0. It's 2-0.
You're lying to me.
Shinepo, I missed the goal, I'll be honest. So I'd be the zooming in on
what's you, Chris?
It's coming in the chat. Look.
Yeah, so who's got hold of it there? Gineppo's got, 4 players around him? 8? Oh, my God. He's chipped Ortega from about 25 yards out. He's chipped him 25 yards out. Ortega's about 8-9 yards off his line, and the lad Gineppo's just looked up, looked at him, and seen Ortega off his line, and he's just gone sod it, do a bit of an Albert, and just chipped him.
It's 2-0 to Southampton against Man City. Keith's just come in the green room. We can see him right now.
That was your audition, Chris. That was your audition for Sky Sports.
I know.
Keith saw it.
Like a soccer Saturday. We're going to bring Keith in just a second, but we've got a question that we want to ask him. Boys, I don't know if you want to just put a message in the chat just for Keith just before he comes on. But I cannot believe it. 2-0 to Southampton. Still early doors. 30 minutes gone.
Yep.
But that's the favourites for the cup out. If Southampton can continue this and go on and win it, this is crazy stuff right now. Absolutely crazy stuff. Wow, what a goal. I've just watched it now.
What's Ortega doing? What's he doing?
I have no idea. And look, I'm not in a place to argue with it at all.
No,
not in a place to argue with it.
More than happy.
But this is crazy. Guys and girls in the chat, let's get excited. Why not? We're playing class right now. We're in the semi-finals. We're in the hat. We're in the hat guaranteed. Man City are not. So they've got it all to do. Questions are coming in for Keith right now, all over the place. The Loaded Boys we've asked Keith a question. Hopefully he's in a position.
Keith hasn't seen the question. He's looking at the match.
Yeah. I don't think he can believe it either.
Yeah, we've got thumbs up. Hang on, let's go. And I think we're going to go, maybe we'll just remove the comment, Chris. We'll go live because we've got some breaking news. And we'll go to a reporter live. Here he is. Let's get him. Our reporter. Keith Downie, what have you got for us, Keith?
Yeah, hi guys, thanks very much. It's some pretty significant breaking news, actually. Just coming into me in the last couple of moments. And obviously with 2 weeks left of the transfer window, it's a big milestone. I believe you guys have hit 5,000 subscriptions. Which I'm told is an exciting time, and something that the Newcastle fan base and everyone involved in this podcast moving forward are very proud of. So congratulations to you guys, and long may your success continue.
Cheers,
Keith.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you
so much. And look, massive welcome to the show, Keith. Thank you for coming back on again. I think it's your second appearance, if I'm right in thinking, on Loaded. Really appreciate you. And look, I think it's quite fitting that that you've come to join us tonight, Keith, and we've hit 5,000 subscribers, because it's because a fantastic guest like yourself, Keith, is the reason why so many people subscribe to the channel. We're just five dads who just love talking about Newcastle United. We love the club, and we've brought so many on the journey, and having guests like you coming on and talking about all things Newcastle is the reason why people come and subscribe. Yeah. So massive thanks to you, Keith, and massive thanks to everybody in the chat and everybody that's watching right now, because we couldn't have done it without you over the last year and a half, just over.
Yeah, well, listen, Thank you for the warm welcome. Secondly, apologies for being late. I was actually over on another podcast, a Hearts podcast. The team of support, they wanted me to come on and talk about, because Hearts are making a few signings this week, and I've had a little bit of information on it. So they wanted me to come on and chat about that. What they didn't tell me is they were going to do a quiz at the end, and they did a northeast Hearts football quiz at the end. The questions were just so difficult, and I was like, no, I'm not coming off till I get this. So, the 5-minute quiz took half an hour. I mean, some of the questions ridiculous. So that's why I'm late. But listen, thank you very much for bringing me the news about the Man City Southampton score. I've literally just put it on behind me. I haven't heard you guys talking about it, and I thought it was a wind up to start with. So that's looking pretty good. I know obviously the draw hasn't been made yet, but if you were to get Man City out of there, I think Newcastle fancy their chances against anyone that's left, really, including Man.
Literally, Keith, you've literally just said what we said before you came on air, is that we said if Man City go out of this competition tonight, like we asked the people in the chat, surely we look at ourselves potentially as favourites because of the way in which we're playing right now. We're the highest ranked team in the competition. If you look at position right now, like we're right in the mix, surely. But first of all, obviously, before we get into various other things, I just want you to, just to give me your feelings and obviously a little bit of a review of the fantastic 2-0 win against Leicester City last night that put us into the semi-finals. Difficult and very disappointing performance at the weekend in Sheffield United. We asked the question, were we going to bounce back? Were we going to get a reaction? It looks like we got that. What was it from your perspective?
Yeah, listen, I mean, it felt very much like, and I was there early yesterday. I got there about 3:00 and I was doing some lives in the build-up, and I bumped into Shay Given and Alan Shearer, and then Steve Watson and Nobby Solano was in. It felt like there were a lot of big names there, former players. It felt like a big night. It really just felt like it almost had the feeling of like a European evening about it. That's kind of what it felt like. It felt to me like there was a lot of pressure on the game, and I think that was due to the result against Sheff Wed at the weekend. And, if Newcastle hadn't have gone through last night and you were out of both cups by mid-January, it would have just taken the shine off the season. I felt a little bit, irrespective of what. Yes, if you finished top 4, everyone would have forgotten about it. But I just felt to have a cup competition to go at in a couple of weeks' time and potentially into February just gives everyone something to kind of dream and get excited about. So, listen, I don't know how many of you, if any, were there last night, but the atmosphere was, I mean, the noise when the players emerged from the tunnel to greet the fans was as loud as I've heard it. It honestly was. It was a different. It actually sent the hairs kind of like you just felt the hairs stand up in the back of your neck. It was really something to behold, and I felt that the fans kind of helped Newcastle to such a quick start. Obviously, Sean Longstaff had that chance within the first minute, and then I think Bruno had a couple of shots wide. And Brendan Rodgers couldn't have complained if Leicester had gone in 3-0 down at the break. Newcastle were just so far ahead in that first half, and really throughout the whole game. And they battered them, they really did. But I think the crowd helped massively, because I think the players really got a lift from seeing that display before the game, the noise of the crowd. And I know we say it again and again about the 12th man. The Newcastle fans really were the 12th man last night. And I have to say, it was a real privilege to be there last night. And I think Leicester can count themselves lucky that the scoreline was only 2-0 at the end. But, I've had my dad down to a couple of games sort of since the takeover, and he couldn't make it last night. He's just been down to a few, and I kind of regretted it a little bit. I thought, it would have been great to have had him down just to see that last night, because the evening games, as you guys well know, are just, there's something about it, like just the crackling atmosphere and the expectancy and the noise. Everything's just cranked up a little bit. Performance was top. So the performance was so good. I mean, as I say, there was pressure on that, but the players played as though there wasn't pressure last night. And, it's worked out perfectly now, because although you'd want to be in the FA Cup, the way it's fallen now, you've got a free weekend in the middle of those 2 Carabao Cup semi-finals. And are the other teams going to have? I'd need to check and see who's still in it and who's not. But you would imagine that if Newcastle are up against a team who do play in the FA Cup in the middle of that gives them a bit of an advantage. So I don't know. Maybe it was part of the grand plan, whatever. But the players and management, really, I think they can really feel vindicated, but for the little bit of criticism that sort of came their way at the weekend after the Sheffield Wednesday result. But those are the kinds of nights that you'll look back on and say, it was great. It was great to have been there last night. And although it's only a quarter final, and I know a lot of people are saying, you've not won the thing, whatever. It just felt like a big night.
It felt, and it still feels different this time, because it's it feels like You know, when we've got to quarterfinals before, semi-finals before, it feels like, you know, this is the pinnacle. Like we're not going to get any more than this. But with how we're building as a club, it almost feels like it's the start of something. We've managed to break that barrier already to get to a semi-final for the first time since 2005, and it feels like there's more to come. Whereas before that, if we ever got to a certain point in the cup quarterfinals under Rafa Benitez, it never felt like we could actually sustain it and back it up and go that step further. I mean, the one with Steve Bruce at Brentford away a few years ago was just an absolute disgrace. But for now, it seems like we can actually go and take it further and go that one step further, even in the semi-finals, no matter who we get. So, and if Man City are on the way out, like it looks like at the moment, you know, it only strengthens our case. That is for sure. But you know, we had this conversation just before you came on, Keith, about that. But boys, I don't know if you want to add anything to that before we move on to the next point with regards to what Keith said about the result.
Can I just say one more thing, guys, that I just was thinking about there while you were chatting? Do you know one thing that really struck me last night was how good it was for the manager to have real options. I mean, to see Isak coming on at last minute, Alan Wilson, and like, just, I mean, if you're Leicester and you run into the ground and you turn around and there's Alexander Isak about to come on and then Alan St. Maximin, it just felt different. It felt like there were real options last night. Like, it just felt, you know, you're not looking at the bench and you were not strengthening, but the players that were coming on were of equal standard, if not better, than who was on the pitch already. Whereas at times this season, it feels like when subs have been made, the standard's gone down a little bit. But that was the first time that Wilson and Isak have both been available to Howe in any squad since the start of the season. And if you're a player, you know from being a player, when you look round and you've got good subs waiting to come on, it makes you play a little bit better as well. And I think it gives the team and the squad a lot more belief that they know that if things aren't going great, they've got players who can come on and change it. And I don't think that has been the case a lot this season. And I think to have that last night was I know the game was pretty much over by the time they came on, but I just think it gives the players a boost even before they take to the field when they look at the subs bench and they see options like that.
No, totally agree, Keith, and that's what we were saying in our own chat as well when the match was ongoing. Just to have, instead of the likes of bringing Wood on, we have Isak to bring on and ASM back and ready to come off the bench as well. And it's only going to get better as we go into the further windows and further seasons. Our bench is going to get stronger, the squad gets stronger, the project gets stronger. And I think Dan Ashford touched on it as well before. Great actually bit of commentary on the build up to the match that they're talking about maybe if they can move a few out, then they might try and bring one or two in. So it's on loads to look forward to.
Definitely. Look, let's move on. Just because I wanted to just very briefly before we get into the discussion on some of the questions that have come into the chat. You know, what have you made? Because we've not spoke to you for a while, Keith, on the show. What have you made of Eddie Howe and his season so far? I'll put a little snippet of pictures up. I'll just flick back to the transfer show one, Daz.
Yeah.
You know, this came on Sky last night, and you know, points per game, you know, higher than Keegan, higher than Sir Bobby Robson. He's already making these big movements already in such a short space of time. You know, I know you get to interview. I listen to it every week. Your press conferences, or Eddie Howe's press conferences, and you get to ask a number of questions. You know, how is it for you being in that position to ask those questions and to speak to Eddie Howe? You know, what is it like in this position now? Having a manager that's so forward thinking, that's so modern in the way in which he goes about his business, and equally being so successful at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, he's a very impressive character when you listen to him and you see him. But do you know, I've probably never been more impressed than that little clip from the dressing room last night, and just hearing his little listen, he didn't even say very much, right? But it was the way he said those few words, and you could hear a pin drop in the dressing room. Those players have just put in 95 minutes. You know, they're absolutely shattered. You know, sometimes it's quite hard to get the dressing. You could hear a pin drop in there. And the fact that the first thing he said was, "You great, we've gone through, we're in a semi-final." But the bigger thing, Dan Burns scoring at the Gallowgate end, Newcastle fan, scoring for his boyhood club, and Howe actually said to me in the press conference afterwards that he wanted him to get up and say a few words, but instead Dan decided to. I think he was goaded into doing his little dance and instead. So I think it kind of just brought a little bit of a smile to everyone's face and just kind of like took away the nervousness or the seriousness that, the awkwardness that Dan might have felt stood up standing, because I don't think he's the sort of guy who likes to sort of be in the limelight. But that was, even in just a 2-minute cameo from Howe there, was probably more impressed than I've been in any press conference. The one thing I'll say is, listen, it's great listening to him. He talks a lot of sense. He's got a lot of time for everyone. He answers any question. He doesn't really get irked or annoyed about anything you ask. Like he's quite cute and clever with his answers, and it's sometimes quite difficult extracting information out of him. And you guys want to hear me saying this, but it's better to interview someone like Steve Bruce, because you never know what he's going to say next. And like for us, for TV, it was great. You would go in the morning and you didn't know what you were going to get next. And as a journalist, that's what you want, right? You don't get that off Eddie Howe, because he's so controlled in everything he says. I mean, I just think back to some of the stuff under Steve Bruce and and other managers, not just Steve Bruce, but other managers. Even like I'm thinking like Middlesbrough when they had Neil Warnock recently, it was great going down and speaking to him. And Wilder, you never knew what they were going to say next. Whereas Howe's that was before my time. I've heard what he was like from the guy in the press room. But Howe's more of a kind of modern, kind of considered, and he's very protected and everything he says. And listen, it's frustrating for us sometimes, because if he says Callum Wilson's out for 6 weeks, he's going to be on the bench on Saturday, or vice versa. And he's very clever in what he does, and I think we're all just trying to work out the way he does things. But that's to his credit, and I think that's probably why he's got such respect from the players. And I've said this a few times now, but the one thing I've noticed more than anything is that all those players who have left, whether it be on loan or permanent, and you can list them all, your Dwight Gales, your Isaac Haydens, Kieran Clarks, Jeff Hendricks, all these guys who have left on loan, and some of them have gone, they didn't need to go. I mean, Dwight Gale could have sat out for another 2 years and picked up his money, but he's gone because they've got respect for Eddie Howe and what he's trying to do for the football club. Some of these guys weren't really that bothered about continuing playing. They kind of felt that their careers were up, and for them it's more a financial thing than a football thing at this stage in their career. But the reason they've done all that is because they've got so much respect for Eddie Howe as a manager, and the way he's treated them and the way he's spoken to them since they arrived, that they've wanted to do that. Would that have been the case under previous managers? I don't know. But under Eddie Howe, these guys have all got... I mean, look at Matt Ritchie, for example. He's hardly kicked a ball. He played against Sheff Wednesday Saturday. He's hardly played in 2022. I don't know if he started a game. And yet, has he moaned once? That would not have been the case under a previous manager, and it's because Eddie Howe deals with it. All these guys have left. They've gone to other clubs on loan or permanently, different outposts of the UK. Not one of them has had a single bad word to say about Eddie Howe. And I think for me, that speaks volumes. So listen, he's great to deal with. He's just a good guy. He's just a good, solid guy. He's helpful, and he knows that you've got a job to do as well, and I think he respects and appreciates that you've got to listen. Since he's come in, everything's been good, so it's easier to work in those circumstances when everything's going well. But you can't criticise anything he's done. I mean, he literally, the only blot on his copybook has been that Sheffield Wednesday defeat, but as we've touched on already, that actually might end up working, ended up being what Newcastle needed at the end of the season. I think going out to Cambridge last year was horrendous at the time, and I think if he's honest, he was probably unsure about whether he was going to be in it long term at that stage, because he was almost under a little bit of pressure after that, but turned it around massively. And I think that Cambridge defeat actually helped Newcastle go on that brilliant run until the end of the season. Let's hope it's similar with the Sheffield Wednesday one, and it helps this double header semi-final, whoever it is Newcastle are going to face. But yeah, listen, it's just a pleasure and a privilege to cover the club at the moment. To be honest, that's all I've really got to say.
I think, Chris, you have a very good question now that would link in here nicely, if you remember.
Yeah, so Keith, firstly, thanks very much for coming back on, mate. We were delighted, when you agreed to come back on. So yeah, just want to say that, reiterate that again. But what we, me and the lads were talking about pre-show, Keith, that we wanted to ask you was, obviously we saw the Sky cameras yesterday, and it was great to see that insight in the changing room. We don't always see that, and we always see those fantastic pictures of the players after the win. So to see that being done live was, really special. And obviously seeing Dan Burn, I know you said he's quite shy and retiring character, and as we can see, Dan Burn tends to go towards the back of the photos, doesn't he? So it was nice, for him to kind of have that limelight after a fantastic goal. But what I wanted to ask you was, do you think there's any truth, and we've heard these rumours before, Keith, that there's a possibility that we could be doing maybe like an Amazon, like the Tottenham Hotspur did, like Arsenal did, and City did. Do you think there's a possibility that Newcastle could do like an all or nothing kind of show in terms of showing behind the scenes? Is there any whispers, or do you think that's going to happen?
Or a Sky version?
Listen, Chris, firstly, I agree with you. It was great to see that access last night. Things that people don't normally get to see, and I think it just really showed the in a nutshell, didn't it? And I think any Newcastle fan watching that would have smiled. I mean, I know myself, just as a journalist, I think I've watched it back about 6 or 7 times myself. So God knows how many you guys have. With regard to your question, I'm afraid I'm not really able to say. But I do think that there probably is grounds to the story in terms of what's happening at Newcastle. I would expect the likes of Amazon, Netflix to be looking into something like that. I'm afraid I'm not really allowed to say what the situation is at the moment. But that, to be honest with you, I'd normally be quite open on most things. But I do think it's something that could happen in the future. When, I'm not sure, but any TV producer that works in that sort of industry worth their salt must be looking at Newcastle right now and thinking, look at this, because we're going to be able to follow the whole journey to the top, providing Newcastle get there. So listen, sorry I can't give you much more information about that at the moment, but I think you're probably along the right lines in what you're thinking at the moment.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Keith. Thank you. Yeah, it's a really exciting time, isn't it? And you're quite right. If anybody was out there thinking, which club could we follow? Where would there be interest? Not just from the fans of the club, but also like football fans in general. You wouldn't go far on picking a club like Newcastle at the minute, would you?
I'm just not sure. I just don't know whether I can't imagine Eddie Howe being someone who would want if something like that does happen. I can't imagine Eddie Howe, knowing him as I do and how private. Is wanting the cameras in the dressing room all the time. I don't know whether that was maybe a one-off last night, but you have to say the stuff in the dressing room with Pep and Arteta and that in the past has been amazing. And let's look at Sunderland as well. I mean that Netflix documentary was brilliant. It really was. The kind of warts and all thing, hearing the fans, it was great, really great viewing. So listen, hopefully they can do something. I wouldn't be surprised if they do. I probably am not really at liberty to go too much into things at the moment, I'm afraid.
Yeah, awesome. No, cheers, mate.
Well, I want to move on because we've got so many questions here for Keith. But of course, we have to start with if we're going to talk about any transfer related stuff. I'm going to switch it over now, so I apologize.
Yep.
1 second. With this man, because you've just been on a Hearts podcast talking about this man, and of course we have your tweet from a few days ago that mentioned that he was in Scotland looking at Hearts, your team, for face-to-face talks. Just talk to us about that deal. What did you make of that deal? Were you expecting it? I think it might have been Geordie Toon for Life in the chat that said, "Did you try and convince him to join Hearts?" What did you make of that deal coming to fruition?
Did you not notice I was on that train with him on Monday afternoon? Right. I think for a young lad, 18 years old, he's moved over. He's moved across the world from Australia. He's actually, just kind of broken into the Australian national team at the World Cup. I think he made his debut maybe just a couple of weeks before the World Cup. Just a couple of caps under his belt. He's moving over to the UK, being over here for the first time. I think part of it is that they don't want him to be too far from home. Imagine, a player like that moving over here and then suddenly getting farmed out to Germany or Portugal. And, I think they want him to get used to the way of life in the UK and it's probably as close to the northeast as possible. And I know better than anyone, I can jump on a train from Newcastle Central and I'm on Princes Street in Edinburgh in an hour and 25 minutes. So it's just up the road. Scottish football is hustle and bustle. He'll get toughened up there for sure. And Hearts is a club. They're the third biggest club in Scotland, behind Celtic and Rangers. They've got a brilliant infrastructure. They get 20,000 fans every game. They pack the stadium out. The coaching staff there are great. They've got a manager in Robbie Nielsen, who obviously Eddie Howe likes, because Eddie Howe says they're going to make sure they give him to a club who have got a good coach. And they actually train at the Scottish Performance Centre, so it's where Scotland train for the matches. So I mean the facilities are second to none. I mean, I caught a glimpse of him last Friday. I was up at the Newcastle training ground doing a couple of lives before the press conference, and he was about 30 yards away from me doing the bleep test, right? So he was running up and down that indoor hall at Newcastle doing the bleep test, and I was thinking, God, you're going from this to the Scottish Performance Centre up there, the training facilities. It's like night and day, because as you know, Newcastle's training ground isn't fit for purpose, and although they're upgrading at the moment, things like the indoor hall still remain. And I was thinking, God, wait till you see, because it's amazing up there. Like the facilities are absolutely brilliant. Like it's modelled on St George's Park, and so all those facilities are great. But I think the biggest pull for him as a player, and by the way, he had interest from numerous clubs in England and abroad, League One clubs, Championship clubs, other clubs in Scotland, Germany and Portugal. But I think the biggest pull for him were the fact that, and I mentioned it in my tweet there, there's actually 3 Aussie internationals in the Hearts squad, and I think he's quite close to a couple of them. So, he's moved over here on his own, 18 years old, and it'll be a bit of like a home for home. He can go up. I wouldn't be surprised if he actually lives with one of the lads to start with, just to try and ease it in. So listen, from a selfish point of view as a Hearts fan, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to seeing him. I know obviously he might not settle straight away. It might even take into next season. I don't know how long. I don't know whether the loan's until the end of the season or if it's an 18-month loan, but it might take him a while. But I'll tell you something, he will get looked after up there at Hearts, and it'll be a really good grounding for him in terms of British football. So I'm excited to see how he gets on. I was told earlier today there's a chance he might be involved in Friday. Hearts are playing on Friday. If it gets pushed through in time, I think there's just an issue with the paperwork regarding his work permit. But these things take a bit of time. So if he is involved on Friday, I might actually get myself up there and go and see how he gets on. He would be on the bench, of course. I don't think he's going to walk into the starting 11. But listen, he's a raw, exciting talent, loads of pace. So the sky's the limit for him if he does things right. So exciting time for him to come into Newcastle. I've seen the game last night, and I think exciting times for yourselves as Newcastle fans and for myself as a Hearts fan.
Definitely. Right, I'm going to come to you with this. Obviously, we're in the transfer window right now. It is January. Lots and lots of discussions about transfers and players and various other things. We'll throw one or two things at you, but first and foremost, I want to know from your perspective, what sort of business do we need to be thinking about in this window? What sort of business do you expect Newcastle to be doing? And, how many players does that accumulate to, in your opinion?
I think it's a priority that you bring in a deep lying midfielder. I just think for me that's a priority over anything else. I know obviously there's been talk from ourselves and from others that Eddie wants to bring in a right back, a young right back, to sort of learn from Trippier and eventually compete and maybe replace him. But Manquillo actually did okay the other night. I thought at Sheffield Wednesday. He was one of the better players. He's not bad. He's actually not bad a backup. And Kraft's back in April. I know he might not be named in the 25-man squad, but for me, the priority right now is a midfielder. You're playing Bruno, Longstaff, and Willock game after game after game. And I thought Willock was excellent last night. I thought Bruno looked back to Longstaff missed a couple of chances, but Eddie obviously feels that he gives the team something in terms of his legs, and I think it's important to have a couple of local lads in the team as well and around the place, and I think him and Dan Burn in there help that, but they need help in there. They need help, they need someone in there. I mean, for me, watching Youri Tielemans last night, I know he didn't have his best game, and it looks maybe like his heart's not in it, like he's kind of switched off a little bit from things at Leicester. For me, he would be an ideal signing to go in there, sit in midfield. Listen, he can go forward, he can rat around, he can spray the ball, but he's kind of like just a younger version of John Joe Shelby, I think. I think you could go in, you could put him in a number 6 role and then push Bruno further forward and kind of play Bruno and Willock, or if you want to play Longstaff, or, it just gives you more options. I just feel they're so light in numbers there at the moment. I think you're asking the same 3 players to go to the well again and again and again, and I just think they need help. So I think he needs to bring one in there, and I think it needs to be someone who's ready to go in and play. For me, Tielemans would be the player. I would be very surprised if Newcastle don't test the water with a bid between now and the end of the window. I mean, his contract's up in the summer. I also think last night it will have done Newcastle the world of good. Tielemans seeing that, Tielemans experiencing that atmosphere and playing in that white hot atmosphere. And I know Maddison wasn't there, but he'll have done it before. I think Tielemans might have been taken aback by just what was going on there last night. So hopefully that holds him in good stead. Whether they put a bid in or not, I don't know. I would be surprised if they don't, because I think if it was me, I would in that situation. The issues you've got there is that Tielemans could kind of command whatever he wants in the summer in terms of wages. So you would think that if they do sign him, he probably would break the wage structure. So that obviously brings its own problems. And then how much do Leicester want to sell to a rival? But, if he's going to be going for free at the end of the season and Newcastle come in on 25 million, surely if you're Leicester, who are in need of money, by the way, at the moment, surely you take that. So I think a midfielder, and I think to a slightly lesser extent a right back. I think if you'd asked me the question 2 months ago, I would have said, they'll probably look to bring in a forward, like someone who can play across the front. I think now with Isak and Wilson available, and St. Maximin back, and obviously you've got Almiron and Joe Linton, I don't think that is quite as pressing as what it was. So for me, midfielder is crucial, and I think that'll be the feeling at the club as well. Slightly lesser extent a right back, but I do probably expect them to add there. But if they don't, it's not the end of the world, because as I say, this Manquillo, and he's done a decent job when he's come in, and then an attacker. But I wouldn't be surprised, and I know I err on caution with these things, but I wouldn't be surprised if you got to the window having just added a midfielder. But I hope I'm wrong. Listen, I didn't think you would sign Alexander Isak, and then it came out. So some of us, we got quite surprised about that as well. So you never know. And I do think Newcastle, as a club, the kind of noises that come out of them, they try and make it sound as though they're being conservative, and then just suddenly bang, something arrives. So, let's wait and see. But I honestly don't think they'll make, and I said this the last window as well, and we were a bit wrong, but I don't think they'll make. I just think they're in a different position this January to what they were last season. So, but for me, if they were to sign Tielemans and Tielemans only, I think that would be a successful window. I know that's maybe what you don't want to hear, but I think to not upset the apple cart within the squad as well, I think that would be a good, successful window.
And I guess sorry, Pete, I was just going to say, I guess it may change as well as we get towards the end of the window, because potential someone might get injured or whatever, and it may just alter things slightly. So it will be a living breathing window as well. But yeah, that seems.
I did hear. I was just grabbing that.
No problem.
I've been talking for about 2 hours solid, but
is that Cherry Pepsi Max?
It is, mate. Yeah.
Great choice. You see, I've got an eagle eye for these things.
Got my tea half eaten over here. I'll show you. Look, right. Flip it around. There's my tea lying half eaten on the table.
Oh,
mate.
You're making me feel bad now. At least have your dinner.
You see my camera going off. I'm just having a little mouthful of my dinner. That's what it is.
No problem.
No problem at all. I do want to come back to that. I do want to come back to the Tielemans talk, because obviously you made a really, really good point, Keith, that I want to kind of get Chris and Daz's opinion on. I actually didn't think that Tielemans had a bad game last night. I thought he, in the fact that the midfield was so dominant for Newcastle in the way we dominated the game, I actually think Tielemans was trying to put himself about, and it was almost like, not saying this is the case, but it almost felt to me like he was putting himself in the shop window. He was coming up against Joe Linton, really getting stuck in against Bruno, and trying to put himself about in that midfield. And look, I'm based in Leicester, so I know a lot of Leicester fans that go and watch him regularly. And what was really interesting, I spoke to a couple the other day. He has been playing in the number 6 position for a number of games now for Leicester. And it just shows for me that if he's been playing that recently and doing a job for the team, that he can play in that position. And what you've just talked about, Keith, I think was really, really interesting that, you know, he can play that position. He can maybe take Longstaff out of the team and put him in there, and you've got that quality in the ball playing ability to really kind of open up midfields. But I just want to get your thoughts, Chris, and Daz's opinions on Tielemans and obviously what Keith said, because I think it's really interesting. Like, do you agree that we need a number 6? Is that the priority?
For me, yeah, we need number 6, a defensive midfielder. And you guys know, I said I called Tielemans right before 20 hours before the takeover, before we saw a chap on Sky with a little tear running down his eye, announcing the big news we're all waiting for. We thought it was done about 20 hours before, but nothing official. But yeah, I was calling we were at Ben Jacobs on, and that's who I said, name your price for Tielemans. That's who I wanted through the door. Now he has gone downhill a bit since then, as we've said a few times. We think Eddie Howe can bring him back to his best and even bring him better.
Chris, what are your thoughts, Tielemans?
Yeah, no, I mean, as Keith rightly pointed out, you know, number 6 is really the priority, and the great thing with Tielemans is he's kind of in the Bruno mold, in the sense that he plays as number 6, and that would release Bruno to then play in the number 8 further up. But similarly, you know, Tielemans is probably his best position is the number 8, so it just gives us that 2-prong option, doesn't it? You know, where we don't necessarily, because the only problem is if you bring in a number 6 to play, it's great because it will free up Bruno. But then, obviously, if Bruno is out, you then still need that number 8. So if you're bringing in a player who can play in multiple positions and play them exceptionally well, it's great. And the opportunity for Youri Tielemans, it doesn't come about very often. How old is he? Like 26? In the last 6 months of his contract. You know, if Tielemans had 3 or 4 years left on his deal, we'd be talking probably about a 40, 50, 60 million pound transfer. So the opportunity to bring in Youri Tielemans is great. My only concern about him is that, you know, perhaps what with player power these days, Youri Tielemans is in a fantastic position where he might think, you know what, I'll stay here till May, and then he'll have a choice of all the clubs around Europe, and then he'll get his signing on fee, you know, and I'm sure much higher wages. So that's the only difficulty for Newcastle in doing the deal. But we should definitely be interested, and you know, Keith rightly said again, you know, he will have been at St James's Park last night and probably thinking, yeah, I could have a bit of this.
Yeah, I think you've nailed it. I think that's the exact situation at the moment, and it's really the players, when a player's contract gets to the sort of dying embers at the moment, it's completely in his control. And you would think if Youri Tielemans comes available for free in the summer, you have lots of clubs wanting to sign him. Whether Newcastle can get the deal done, I mean, even if Newcastle went to Leicester and said, we'll give you 30 million now for a guy who's got 5 months left in his contract, even if they did do that, the player could still dig his heels in. The players could still dig his heels in and stay and wait for a club that we're going to pay him more to come along. So it's all in the players' in hands. So that's why, as you rightly say there, and as I touched on earlier, hopefully, as far as Newcastle fans are concerned, and Newcastle, if they want to sign him, hopefully he's had his head turned a little bit after last night.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be difficult to turn a player's head with the reaction and the atmosphere that we had. I was on a different podcast with Arsenal fans and Man United fans, and they were very, very clear that Newcastle have the best atmosphere in the Premier League. They said bar none. They watched the game last night. They've been to the ground in the last year, and they said it's the best atmosphere in the Premier League. And look, we are making big moves in terms of making those teams that come to St James's Park very, very uncomfortable. So you're absolutely right with that respect. We have well over 300 watching, but as Lisa, one of our resident Spaniards, has said, one of our mods, we've only got 86 likes. So click that button, click the like button, and come and join the chat. It means more people can see. We've got fantastic guests on, like Keith tonight. There's lots more questions. You are very, very popular, Keith.
Go on then. I had a few questions and I'll try and answer them quickly rather than prattling on.
They're not hard questions.
I saw that FFP one. Yeah, don't ask me that.
Yeah, no, we don't want to know about FFP. But
I just don't know the answer.
No, I don't think anyone knows the answer, to be fair. There's a number of questions on here. To be fair, David Cook mentioned, Keith, is a young lad from Dortmund realistic? I think he's referring to Makoko. Good player.
Yeah, amazing player. There's a lot of interest in him, though. A lot. Like, I think Newcastle would probably have to offer him regular football to start with for him to come in. I just don't think the striking department right now with Isak and Wilson there, I'm not sure if that's realistic at the moment. You know, I think he would want to come in and play. He's playing at Dortmund, so you know, Newcastle are obviously bringing in younger players to deal with, to bring into the, you know, like I'm talking about a young right back to come in and stuff. And I think, you know, they're trying to supplement the academy squad with young players that can come in, and he would obviously be for the first team, Makoko. So I mean, the figures are eye-watering as well that are being talked about there. I just, from what I'm hearing from within the club, certainly not this window, he might be the sort of player maybe in this future. I think the word is they're going to try and go quite a bit bigger in the summer. But I just can't see a deal like that happening this January. I think you put a picture up of Ivan Fresneda there. I think that one's a lot more likely. I think the issue with Fresneda is there's interest in him from Dortmund and Juve, and the word I've heard is that Dortmund are offering him first team football. Now this is a guy who's a starter for Real Valladolid. He knows he's not going to come in ahead of Kieran Trippier unless Trippier's injured. So is he going to walk away from first team football in the Liga? Yes, the money's going to be better at Newcastle, significantly better than he's earning in Spain. But maybe Dortmund looks, you know, the amount of young players who go to Dortmund at the moment because they get a great ground, and look what's happened with Jude Bellingham. So that would be my concern with Newcastle there, whether they can get that one over the line because of the other interest. But I know that he's a you know, one of a few that Newcastle are interested in. I wouldn't be surprised if they go back in for Harrison Ashby, who's at West Ham. His contract's coming to an end soon, and obviously they tried hard for him at the end of the summer transfer window. This is a player that Eddie Howe and his recruitment staff really like. I know we've not heard a lot of him. He's Scottish, by the way, so he's got a lot going for him. But this is a player that Eddie Howe really likes. And by the way, let's talk about Scottish fullbacks. I mean, we've got Andy Robertson and Kieran Tierney, who are unbelievable at left back. We've got I don't know if you saw the lad. I know he's not a right back, but he's a kind of right wing back side. I don't know if you saw him coming on for Liverpool the other night. Ben Doak looks like he's going to be unbelievable. 17, played a handful of games on the right, and then Hickey at Brentford. I think he's going to go on to be a star. The right back for Brentford. He's only 19, 20. Came through the ranks at Hearts, and then Liverpool have just signed Calvin Ramsey from Aberdeen. He played all season at Aberdeen, and he's now the understudy at the moment to Alexander Arnold. So we're actually got you good young Scottish defenders coming through, and it sounds as though Ashby's another one. So I wouldn't write him off just because you've not heard much about him. I think Eddie Howe's manager and his coaching that could polish up someone like that, like him, and probably have them ready fairly soon for the first team. And
did you mention Nathan Patterson at Everton as well, Keith? He's Scottish, isn't he?
Forgot about Nathan Patterson. He's been amazing. Been amazing. Because he's been injured recently. Do you know what? When I was thinking of a right back, I was thinking of Hickey. I was like, there's one other, and there's so many that actually end up.
Loads.
Patterson's. I mean, he's actually attracting interest from other clubs. He's actually attracting interest. I mean, if Everton were to go down this season or whatever, I would imagine he'll get a move back to a Premier League club. So, lots of good young Scottish defenders coming through at the moment, and Ashby's an under-21 international. So, listen, I've not seen much of him play. I don't know myself, but I know that West Ham want to keep him. And if he was to come to Newcastle, it would be his choice rather than West Ham letting him go.
Okay. There's a left field question here from Life Goals. I've not seen this personally, but I'll put it out there. And it says, question for Keith. Any truth in Newcastle are interested in Ryan Sessegnon? Spurs supposedly happy to sell 16 million. I've not heard that personally, but
I have to say I don't know of that one. You caught me out with that. I would be surprised given the options that Eddie Howe's got at his disposal at left back. You know, I mean, at the moment, if that was the case, he's going to have to get a couple out, because if you look at left back at the moment, you've got Dan Burn playing there, you've got Matt Targett who's injured for the next 5-6 weeks, I think. You've got Jamal Lewis there as well. Now I know obviously Lewis hasn't featured much, but that's 3. And then if you think beyond that, you've even got Paul Dummett in the squad. So you've actually got four left backs there at the moment. Now I don't expect Dummett to stay. There's a chance Dummett might even get loaned out this month. Like I'm not sure. I don't know what his injury situation is, but I would be amazed if Newcastle sign another left back this window. I would imagine he's a sort of player that's on the radar, but I just can't see a signing like that happening. And I have to say, I'm sorry, but I don't have any information on that one. That one's new to me, so I think I probably would have heard about it by now if there was something going on there, and I've not.
So just to add to that, and the three of us, me, Daz, and Chris we've seen this link as well. That there was Ferland Mendy from Real Madrid. Nothing in that.
Again, no, I don't think so at this stage. I think he would cost a bit as well. You know, listen, I think in the summer, I think everything's up for grabs in the summer, and I think Newcastle could go quite big in the summer. But you know, I tend to believe them when they say they're not going to make too many changes this January, and that's why I think they're going to put all their eggs in the basket to try and bring in a midfielder. And if they get a right back as well, then great. But Ferland Mendy's here, left back, is he?
Yeah. French left back.
And he's first choice as well, isn't he, for Real Madrid, which is interesting, the fact that we've been linked with him.
There's so many names getting thrown around, and probably one in every 25 has a bit of truth in it, you know, and it's so hard to pick through the rubbish, to be honest with you. But look, I think he's probably someone they would be interested in the future, but I think at this moment in time, no.
Keith, what about for the youth setup? Because we're linked to a lot of young Brazilian or South American players. Have anyone that sticks out for you? Get one a week we hear about him for the last 10 weeks.
They seem to keep missing out on them because the lad Santos has gone to Chelsea. Hasn't he? I think they really liked him. We've mentioned Fresneda already. Then there's Alan Varela. I think he's one that they like. I think if they don't get a senior midfielder in, he's one they could turn to for a central midfield. I think Varela's maybe one that could come in if they don't bring in like a Tielemans or something like that. They might move. I think he's a bit older. I think he's 21, so he's got a bit of first team football behind him. So he might not be too much of a risk, but he's certainly on the list. But that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to augment the academy and the youth set up at the moment and get players. And I think Dan Ashworth said it on Sky last night. They want to get players ready to come in. And when your Dan Burns and your Shelvey's and your Joe Lintons move on, you've got guys who are just getting ready rather than going out and splashing 50, 60 million every time. You've got guys that they've actually managed to rise up through. They're ready to step in, so it's good. It's a very clever way they're going about it. But again, recruitment's key, and you can just go out and buy a flood of players. And they might not be good enough. What you don't want to do is you don't want to do a Chelsea and bring in, they did with Mo Salah and De Bruyne and all these characters.
Yeah.
And then Lukaku, and then let them go because they didn't think they were good enough, and then end up buying them back again or whatever it was they were trying to do. So that's what you don't want to do. But you feel with Dan Ashworth there that won't happen.
Yeah, there's a couple of other players that I want to come to, but actually there was a player that was mentioned to me earlier on tonight, and Mad Mag Mark. I think Chris and Daz have starred this one. Oh.
I thought you were about to say Madison there. I thought you were just like...
He will. He'll go there.
Being a resident in Leicester, I am going to come to Madison. There's no doubt about it. But Mad Mag Mark, as mentioned, would a player like Matteo Guendouzi fit the bill in number 6? He was statistically up there with Bruno Guimaraes in the French league and one of the best young midfielders in Europe, 23 years old. For me, I watched him at Marseille. For me, and I said it to you boys last year, I would have really, really liked Guendouzi at Newcastle United because I was very, very impressed with him. Heavily linked with Aston Villa at the moment. Is there anything in there with regards to Newcastle? What do you think of him as a player?
I don't know of any talks with Newcastle, but I believe that he is in talks with Villa at the moment. But I have to say that is the sort of player that they're looking at. That sort of age, that experience, that position. That's exactly. And if Newcastle were to go for him, the Villa thing doesn't happen, I wouldn't be surprised, because he looks like he ticks a lot of the boxes. That's exactly the sort of player that they're looking for. He's got the right profile for what they're after. But I just noticed an email from one of my colleagues probably just a couple of hours ago, just when I came on to do that Hearts podcast. I think Villa are maybe in talks with him, so they might beat him to the chase. But then they did that with Diego Carlos, didn't they? And that didn't end very well either.
Wow. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Look, I've got to mention it because there's so many people talking about it, and I don't know what you're like in terms of WWE. I don't know if you're a fan, but question for Keith: if the rumors PIF are buying WWE, which wrestler makes our first 11? Are you hearing anything from a Sky perspective with regards to this deal? Apparently, the PIF are buying WWE. I'm a massive WWE fan, so from the sites that I follow, America's going crazy at the moment with regards to them selling to the PIF. But have you heard anything from that perspective?
I have to say I haven't. It's off my radar. I haven't heard that, but look, I wouldn't be surprised because we've seen what they've done with the golf as well. So I would imagine that would be something that they were looking at. I don't have any intel on it, I'm afraid. With regards to WWE, I mean, it would be like talking a different language to me. I do remember when I was a kid watching Earthquake and Typhoon. Is that the same thing?
Oh yeah. Natural disasters. They were the tag team champs. Yeah, I do remember that back in the day.
I couldn't tell you any of the current upstarts, to be honest with you, which I think is probably showing my age. But no, it's not. I don't really know too much. I've not got time to look at WWE, mate. I'm too busy getting asked about football transfers to win.
I think we're a similar age, Keith, which makes me slightly worried that I'm still a massive WWE fan. You've gone way beyond into football transfers, but we'll leave that one there.
Do you know what? Just before you move on, do you know what's interesting about that? Do you remember that? I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, and there was rumours, wasn't it, that Vince McMahon, who leads on the WWE, that he was buying Newcastle United. So if PIF then bought WWE and then WWE became a sponsor of Newcastle or whatever, it wouldn't surprise me that much.
Now I can see where these stories come from.
Yeah.
You guys just putting 2 and 2 together and seeing what happens.
Yeah.
Next, someone will be asking me about that and say, by the way, Vince McMahon, I was reading that, all right, okay, I was hearing that this, and this is how it happens, and they just get thrown, and then you go, we've got a story. By the way, still 2-0, 64 minutes on the clock. 64 minutes on the clock. Wow.
I think Haaland's on though, isn't he?
Haaland's
come on. So
Chris, you're sacked. You're sacked. We're gonna go.
I put it in the chat. I did put it in the chat. I just didn't want to interrupt for the sub. You know what I mean? But,
Right. There's some other questions here, Keith. I don't know how long you got with us, but I appreciate that we appreciate the fact that you've taking the time to come and join us anyway. So we're going to fire through some questions.
Good crack.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to have you on as always. Interesting question here. Are there any other clubs? This is from Would I Eat There? Are there any other clubs looking to take off fringe players?
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah, I mean, look, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if a few. I mean, listen, if Newcastle are going to get a couple in, they're going to have to create room for them. And Dan Ashworth alluded to that last night. He goes, "Look, we've got a 25-man squad now. The camaraderie and team spirit there is second to none. So I don't think they would want to lose any, but I think they would need to create room. Look, they're going to have to get rid of a goalkeeper. There's 4 goalkeepers there. One needs to go. I wouldn't be surprised if, like, Jamal Lewis went out to try and get football. People keep asking me about Chris Wood. No chance. Newcastle will want to keep 3 strikers, and I can't see them buying a striker to come in for the first team. So I think he'll remain as the number 3. Who else have we got? I thought Manquillo might go, but I think after his performance the other night, I think they might keep him. Who else is Matt
Fraser?
Fraser, maybe. Yeah.
Sorry. Fraser's the main one. Yeah, I think Fraser will probably go in January. I do. I mean, I think it said a lot about his situation at the club that Newcastle made 8 changes against Chef Wed the other night there, and he was still an unused substitute. So I asked Eddie Howe about him at his press conference last week, and he was quite sort of short with his response, saying, look, he's training with the team, but didn't give any other information on that. So reading between the lines, it sounds as though his time at the club is up, which I'm surprised about, because he was glowing in praise of the manager when he arrived, and he was playing him quite a lot. And let's say Ryan Fraser on form is actually a really good option in the wide positions, because if you've got Almiron and Joe Linton doing well, and you've got St Maximin and Fraser to come on, you've got two good options. But it feels as though he's just completely out of the picture. So the issue you're going to have with him there, he's on high wages at Newcastle, and I think I don't know how many teams are going to pay that. I think you probably have to look. I can't see him going back down to Championship. I think you're probably looking at a Premier team who's pretty desperate. So maybe like an Everton or a Palace, or maybe even a Nottingham. Yeah, someone like that who's desperate on bodies to come in, and they might just make a late move for him. But yeah, sorry, that should have been the first one I said. I would imagine he does go. A goalkeeper will go. I mentioned Paul Dummett earlier, but I mean, Paul hasn't played this season anyway. But I'd heard one or two things about a potential move for him to a fellow North East club on loan, but that was a few weeks ago. I don't know if that's still the same situation. He's obviously had loads of injury problems this season, so it depends what kind of fitness he's in. And then Richie and Lewis. So yeah, I think potentially 3 or 4 could go out, and that would create room. And you've got to remember, if Newcastle do sign someone like Fresneda, he wouldn't be included in the 25 because he's under the age of 21. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I think Fraser's the main one. I couldn't believe I didn't think. I knew there was a glaring one there that it wouldn't come to me. But yeah, I think a few could go. I mean, listen, if you're Ryan Fraser, why do you not want to be part of that? Surely you want to be. I mean, look at Sean Longstaff. I know he's had criticism from a number of fans, but listen, Sean Longstaff said at the start of the season, why, as a Geordie, would you not want to be part of this? And I'm going to give everything to be part of it. And listen, Eddie Howe plays him. Eddie Howe likes him. He's done a good job. He's been part of that team that have gone 15 matches unbeaten or whatever the run was. So I just think if you're Ryan Fraser, even if you aren't starting, why would you not want to be part of that? Even if you're coming off for a 10-minute sub. You've seen like guys like Jacob Murphy and stuff just loving being part of it. I don't know. I don't understand why you wouldn't want to push for a place. But listen, every person's different.
The one thing I like with Ryan Fraser is that I think he was 100% sold when Eddie Howe came into the club, and to the point where I think you've already mentioned where he kind of left the international duty in order to stay with Newcastle to train with them, get up to speed with Eddie Howe. The one thing I will say, and I think this might be part of the reasoning why Eddie Howe wants to move him on, is because, and it sounds really horrible when we're saying this, but his hamstrings are made of glass. The amount of times his hamstrings have gone recently, even in the last year, and he's been out for 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks off the back of that. I think Eddie Howe knows, as much as he loves Ryan Fraser and he gets on with him, I don't think there's any issues there.
Yeah.
He needs someone that's dependable, someone that's guaranteed to be playing week in, week out. Now, Ryan Fraser, with Alan St Maximin out since August, probably could have played a lot of minutes, but because he can't stay fit as well, obviously Joe Linton and Joe Willock have been playing those positions, telepathy moving in and out, as we've seen in recent games, and he's come out of the thinking in that respect. And if we're looking at signing a more attacking player, we've talked about 1 or 2 that could potentially come into the club. He would be the natural player that you would want to move on. Yeah. So that's just my perspective on Ryan Fraser. I mean, Paul Dummett, I felt sorry for him last night because I looked at the pictures in the video from the changing rooms, and bless him, he couldn't even get a chair in the squad picture. He was like kind of outcast on the side, and I feel really bad for him because
that dressing room is it's quite small though, the dressing room, and you've got to remember he has gone down there. There are other injured players like Target and Shelby and stuff who weren't even there. So like, fair play to Dummett, like he still wants to be part of it, and he still goes down and involved in the squad and wants to be involved in the banter and all that kind of stuff. Just quickly going back to Fraser, I like him as a guy. I think he's great to interview. He's always got something interesting to say. But listen, there's no getting away with it. Away from it. Kind of the last few clubs, or even with Scotland, there seems to be issues that follow him. It just seems to be the contractual thing at Bournemouth, Scotland. They kind of bit of fallout with Steve Clarke and didn't turn up, as you allude to there, Pete. And then this now as well. Like, I don't know. I just feel that there might be more to it than meets the eye. I don't know, but it felt weird Howe's answer last week. So listen, but let's not worry about it too much. I think you need to think more. I think you need to more think about the players who kind of want to be there and are going to be there moving forward. And if people don't want to be part of it, then that's up to them. You know?
Yeah, definitely. And look, I think we've got a few more players. Lads, I don't know if you want to throw some questions out with players that we've been linked to to get
like, I feel like I'm just saying no all the time, so apologies.
No, but you know, it's not about that, Keith. I mean, from our perspective as a channel on Loaded Bag NUFC, we don't want people just say, "Oh yeah, we're going to sign this player, we're going to sign that player." We want the realism from it. You know, if we're not linked to a player that's been thrown out there in social media, we'd rather hear about it. From people that know more than what we do. So, you know, we'd like to kind of focus on those players that are actually maybe of consideration. We talked about Tielemans as a potential option. We'd rather know that, you know, rather than people saying that, you know, there are other channels and different people out there that will tell you that this player is signing tomorrow and that player is signing in 24 hours, and it never happens. And it's we want a realistic view.
Yeah, it's a free-for-all at the moment, and it gets very frustrating for me because obviously I need to check a lot of these things out with the club as well, and you almost just need to just wade through the nonsense and try and off your own judgment, try and work out what might have something in it and what hasn't. Because if I went to the club and asked every single name that was put to me, I would just look stupid asking questions. I just look stupid. Like, you should really go to the club and ask stuff if you've got a little bit of information yourself, or if you feel there's something in it. So it's difficult, and I feel like all these foreign outlets and, you know, agents, everyone's trying to link players to Newcastle because they think that makes their player look popular. And, you know, thinking that, and we've seen it in the last two windows as well. I actually started counting last summer. I got to about 190 and then just gave up. I was only in mid-July, and I was like,
it was crazy.
Ran out of storage in my notes on my phone, so I was just like, it gets ridiculous. And the good thing for me is Sky used to always be, you know, back in pre-takeover, if Newcastle were linked with someone, if there's any link, I always felt like I had to check it out. But I think there's an understanding from them now that Newcastle are just linked with everyone, and they just kind of leave it to try and sort of deal with it, which is good.
Yeah, I know. Then you'll have Pete Graves in your ear as well, and you checking it out.
Oh yeah.
But I just going to refer back to the last transfer deadline day. I know you did a brilliant video with Matty from the Magpie channel. That was very interesting. I just kind of showing you what your day is like, and it was Matty was tagging along, just kind of giving us the picture as well. I was like, well, all right, going to a name. If you want a name, Pete, I'm going to throw in another Brazilian lad at you, and it's Mateus Franca is one that's been talked about. Again, it's probably one that Dan Ashford would put in the youth kind of category, but he would cost a pretty penny if we were to go for him, I think.
I don't think he'd be for the youth. I don't think these guys that we've mentioned earlier, I don't think they're for youth. I think, I know I kind of said that earlier. What I meant was they would be involved in the first team, but they're not going to go. They're not going to be training with the kids. Like, they're going to be training with, but, you know, with a view to whether it's a year or 2 years down the line or whatever, being involved. And I think he's probably one of those. Yeah, I don't think they're going to come. I mean, obviously the academy at the club's rubbish anyway. Like, the academy, they're still, you know, it wouldn't be that attractive for to leave first team environments to come and do that. I think they would be involved, but I think so it's hard because you need to find a player who's probably going to be quite happy coming in and taking a while to get into the team. Yeah. And it's difficult, as I've said already, if you're someone like Fresneda who's already playing football. You know, he played Real Madrid last Friday, to then say, by the way, you're going to be backup, you're going to be at best on the bench. So that's the problem. It's getting people who are wanting to come and be part of the project and be patient and wait for their chance. So, yeah, I think he's one of those that's on that list. I don't think they're going to bring in a clutch of them, but I wouldn't be surprised if one one arrives this window. Okay. Quick one, I don't know.
Yeah, look, I've got a couple of players that I want to throw your way. Look, it'd be rude not to mention this man. You guys know. Look, Chris is already laughing.
Here we go.
He's the guy that I want more than anybody. But full screen. I don't know why.
Sorry, Pete.
Guys. But look, James Maddison, James Daniel Jenkins.
Guys, I need to
James
go.
Maddison.
Sorry. I need to go now.
No,
I'm winding you up.
Oh my God. You had me for a second, Keith. You had me for a second. Look. I'll be honest with you. My optimism has waned slightly as the weeks have gone on. In terms of, are we actually gonna sign him in January? A few weeks ago, I was really positive.
Offside.
Nah, he's off. He's got to be off.
It's a good save that actually. It was almost
Yeah.
It was good. Or was it a save or a block? I don't say. It looked like it was going. Yeah.
I think it was a block.
Sorry, Pete. I wasn't listening.
No.
I'll give you my honest opinion on Maddison.
Go for it.
I think Newcastle in the summer were led down the path a little bit by believing that they could get him for a certain amount of money. They made the bid. They then raised the bid, and it wasn't what Leicester were looking for. Now, it wasn't Leicester who came to Newcastle and said you could have him for that money. I think people involved in the deal made Newcastle think that they could get him, and I think Eddie Howe wasn't planning to get him, but suddenly when he realised he could get him at that price, he thought, you know what, this is good value for a player of his quality and his stats.
Jesus, nearly 2-1.
So that's what I think happened. I've said that in a couple of other podcasts as well, that I think that's what happened. I think that's what happened in the summer. Now, I think it's too difficult a deal to do in January, especially with the way they're talking about FFP.
To do this window?
This window, I think it's too difficult, I also don't think it's a priority position for them as well. I think they need a holding midfielder. I think if they were to bring Maddison in, they would probably be, you could play him right of the front three or left, but you could also probably play him, if you had a holding midfielder in. I think to bring him in, it's not the right balance for what they're looking for at the moment. Listen, I wouldn't be surprised if Newcastle go back in for him in the summer. Would not be surprised. But I think they saw an opportunity in the summer, or they're led to believe there was an opportunity there. While the opportunity might have been there as far as the player was concerned and the players' representatives, I don't think the opportunity was there as far as Leicester were concerned. So I think James Maddison is the sort of signing that would only happen for any club in the summer. I don't think he's a January transfer signing for anyone, for Newcastle or anyone else. I think it would cost too much. It's too complicated. And I wouldn't be surprised if Newcastle go back in the summer. I think a lot of it will also depend on where Newcastle are European-wise. I think if Newcastle qualify for the Champions League, you've got a real chance of getting him in the summer. I think if you don't qualify for the Champions League, I think he wants to go to a Champions League club. So, in the summer, I was told that he wants Champions League football. That's why it didn't happen in the summer. Not the reason, but it's one of the reasons that I think he wanted to play for a Champions League team, and obviously Newcastle at that stage were nobody thought they were anywhere near it. Now Newcastle are in top four, and hang on, they are actually, as it stands, a Champions League team. Will that be the situation at the end of the season? We don't know. So let's see where Newcastle get this season, and I think it'll be a lot clearer picture of Maddison then. But I just don't see it happening in January. Sorry.
No. This is what we want. I mean, I think I said to you boys, I was of the mindset that if we got Maddison in January, I didn't think we'd get Tielemans at all. If we got Tielemans in January, I thought that we might get Maddison in the summer. And I think there's a chance if we get Tielemans in January, we get Maddison in the summer, and we end up getting both players from the club. I think there's a genuine chance that could happen. That's just my perspective. Marcus Thuram.
I was just going to say, Pete, I bet you're a popular player in your hometown. Just trying to get all the.
Well, you know what? I was really, really popular up until 8 o'clock kickoff last night, and since then I've not heard from anybody. Even though I've messaged them, I can't hear from anybody. So I'm going to try and make sure I can get hold of them in the next 24 hours.
Marcus Thuram, I think he's on the club's radar, yes.
Do you think January or more summer when his contract's out?
Summer.
Okay. Interesting. I mean, look, I'm just going to throw some players up really, really quickly just to get your quick opinions on them. Chris, you will know this because we've talked about this man before. Milan Skriniar. Linked with Newcastle previously. His contract's out in the summer. Inter Milan, right-sided centre-back, an upgrade on Jamal Lascelles. Have you heard anything from a Newcastle perspective?
Look, I think he's one on a list of players they're interested in. But again, you're going to hate me saying this, but I just don't think it's going to happen this January. But that's the sort of guy that I think could potentially, if he hasn't signed a pre-contract with anyone else, I think that's the sort of player they could be looking at in the summer. But I feel that I think there's question marks over whether Fabian Schär stays next season. Obviously,
Really?
yeah, I think Botman's in it for the long term, but I'm not sure about Schär. I'm not sure if maybe this is a season and then they move on after that. I don't know. Listen, that's just me. That's not gone from any information I've got. That's just me, sort of my own judgment. I'm just not sure. I think that might be an area they maybe look to change next season.
Do you think there's a possibility, Keith, that say for example, I'm just devil's advocate here, that maybe Newcastle look to improve on the right centre-back position and maybe Jamal Lascelles leaves and Fabian Schär becomes the understudy right centre-back? He'd stay, or think he'd want first-team football?
Knowing Fabian Schär as I do, I'm not sure he'd be happy being the understudy. I don't think he'll deal with it just as well as what Jamal Lascelles has. I think Lascelles will leave for full-time football. Do you know what? He's another one. January. There's potential. There is potential, but I just think they'll want a backup there, and they've got Dan Burn they can bring in to centre back, but they need a right-sided centre. I think they'll probably persist with the two of Schär and Lascelles as a right-sided centre halves until the summer, and then I think they could both go in the summer. I think there's a chance they could both go. I just don't think Schär will want to be a number two. I don't know. Might be wrong, but I feel there could be changes at the back in the summer. I think the goalkeeper stuck on, Botman stuck on. I also think the left back situation still needs to be resolved. I don't know if Dan Burn's there for the long term. I know he did well there last night. I think Trippier is going to be the stick on for the next couple of years. I just think the right centre back, if an offer came in for Schär, it might be one that they could replace if there was the right option there available. And I think that the player there that you say Skriniar is the sort of guy that they'd be looking. He fits the profile.
Yeah, I think we need pace more than anything at the back.
Yeah,
like that, like ultimate pace. Botman's relatively quick. Schär a couple of times last night was for pace.
I don't think. Yeah.
And it is a question mark with Schär because he's not the quickest on the turn, but as a defender he's been superb for us. A few names just to throw your way. Again, 6 months left on his contract. Trossard from Brighton. I know he was linked a little bit before the restart.
I've been saying him quite a lot actually. Trossard. I've been linked myself, but don't know, not sure. I know his contract's coming up. A couple of people have said to me that he might be too old in terms of I think he's 28, almost 29. I wouldn't be surprised. Surprised if something, but obviously he would be against what they're looking for in terms of younger players. But I think if he was available for free or a very cheap price, I think it'd be hard for them to ignore.
Isn't there talk of that that Brighton have a year option on him as well? But yeah,
so it would obviously cost something. I think if Almiron wasn't doing as well as he was, I think he could come into contention. But I think Almiron surprised everyone at the club. I think they obviously tried to bring Pulisic in on deadline day. I think Trossard they looked at. Who else did they try for? There's another attack-minded. Can't remember. I think there's another attack-minded Chelsea player. Who was it? So there was Gallagher, Pulisic, and there's a third.
Was it Ziyech? Was it Hakim Ziyech?
Was it Ziyech? I thought it was maybe. No, I thought it was another one. I thought it was.
Is it the one with Leverkusen?
Hudson-Odoi?
Yeah.
Hudson-Odoi.
Yeah, Hudson-Odoi. Hudson-Odoi it was, and I just feel that I just feel that at that stage they weren't expecting Almiron to smash it how he has. I think he's changed the priority a little bit and he's changed perception. And listen, he's gone from strength to strength this season. So listen, I wouldn't rule out Trossard, but I'm maybe not so sure about a move for him as I maybe was about 6 weeks ago.
Interestingly, as well on Trossard, just to touch on him very briefly, Brighton could look. We've seen it with Cucurella, we've seen it with other players, Bissouma. Brighton could look to cash in on Trossard while they'll still get a good price for him because they brought in Mitoma, and Mitoma's looked fantastic on that left.
He's good, yeah.
Player.
Yeah. So listen, a lot can change. A lot can change between now and then. But I think the big news at the moment is 5 minutes to go at St Mary's and it's 2-0. So
Yeah.
I know you're trying to keep me on for my live reaction, but I might go and watch the last 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, look, I'm going to keep you on for let's say four minutes, because I've got some questions to throw at you really quickly.
I would just watch it, but as you can see, the screen's behind me, so I keep rudely turning to glance.
No, it's not rude at all.
worry,
I
mate.
completely understand, because this is massive. Look, I've got my phone right next to me. I think we all have watching this right now. I'm going to throw a player at
What's
you.
the other score in the other game? Do you know?
1-1 full time.
Penalties. 1-1.
Right. All right. Okay.
Desiree Douay, young 17-year-old, come through at Rennes, centre midfielder. He was linked in the last 2 or 3 days. Got massive potential. Came from nowhere, and all of a sudden he's become a real top player. But we're linked with Newcastle. I don't know if you've heard anything about him, Desiree Douay.
I honestly don't know. I don't know. That's a new one to me. You've said two words. You've said 2 words there that I've never heard before.
Desiree Douay. If anybody hasn't heard of Desiree Douay, go and watch him play. Young 17-year-old.
Thought that gone in.
Opportunity.
Southampton in the semi, and then Nottingham Forest in the final.
That'll do. Happy days.
Look, I'm going to throw some other players at you whilst you're watching the game.
Where do you get these from? Where do you?
Moyes Casido. Casido. Talk to me.
Yeah, interested, absolutely. But I think there's other big clubs interested as well.
Okay.
I'm not sure how much more business Brighton are going to want to do with Newcastle. Who's that?
Kefram Turam from Nice.
Yes, on the list. He's on the list. That's a possibility. Ed's, by the way, he's a good player. Alvarez, watched him. I was over in Amsterdam covering Rangers in the Champions League. What a player he is! He would be perfect for Newcastle. I honestly could see him with Bruno in front of him. Would be a phenomenal pairing. What a player he is! I think he's on the list as well. I think the last couple, 2 or 3 you've put up there's certainly more potential for those than those random ones that you made up just before that.
Hey, come on, Keith. You're hammering me here. I'm going to throw another one in there. He's been linked with Bayern Munich today. Manu Kone from Mönchengladbach.
Yeah.
I think he's been linked with the Kefram Turam, Moyes Caicedo type of.
Yeah. I've seen the links to that one. Don't have any information on that, I'm afraid. But yeah, I saw his profile, and he does sound like potential. But I mean, listen, look at the list, guy. I've said to you at the start here that I think you'll sign 1 player this window, possibly 2. I think it'll only be 1 midfielder, and we probably come up with how many central midfielders here? Maybe 20. We probably come up with.
We do this every week.
Like, is it this? Go on.
You could go to Dan Ashworth with those 20 right now, and he'd be laughing, because he'd be like, they're all just everything's so speculative at the moment, and it's just it's hard. But I think a couple of those ones at the end are on the list. Shall we say?
Isn't it great that we've got such a pool of players that we can look at now in terms of potentials, rather than just like 1 or 2 players that we get right at the end of the window? And Keith, you know about that more than anyone, because you'd be sitting in outside St James's Park, hoping and praying for some news.
Well, listen, I just had a message a moment ago to say that Hamza Chowdhury is available on loan from Watford. So,
will we pay the loan fee though? That's it.
Yeah.
I didn't expect my drink out. I'm so glad I managed to cover myself. But look, Keith, I'm going to let you go. The boys, we're all going to let you go.
Keith.
Honestly, Keith, you're an absolute legend. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on and join us. We really do appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries, Pete. And sorry for shooting off early. I just really want to see the end of this here. I might take it.
No hassle.
No problem at all. You go for it.
See you at the final.
And look, we'd love to have you back on soon. So look, no doubt I'll be in touch, and we'll sort another time out. You can come on and join.
Good stuff. All right, good to chat, guys. Speak soon.
Cheers. Take care, Keith. Thank you.
See ya. Great to have Keith on. The guy's just a legend, isn't he? He's just he's just a great guy. Love it.
Who better? You couldn't literally name a better person to announce that we've hit 5K than Mr. Transfer Takeover Deadline person himself, Keith.
Exactly.
Daz,
It's like we planned it. I think planned it.
Clip it, Daz. You know,
It's done.
It needs
It's
clipping.
done.
It
you
needs
know,
clipping.
makes sense. Let's clip it in. And look,
Yeah.
look, boys, I don't know about you two. I want to stay on to see this next 5 minutes.
Yeah,
To see whether.
Is it? Is it? Oh. It's all Southampton. Southampton are peppering the goal.
Chris, I'm 30 seconds behind. Right, you need to. You're the man.
Delayed reaction.
You're the man of the voice. Oh, Forest. Scored.
Forest. Was it extra time?
Is that 1-1? Is
It
that
says Forest
penalty?
scored 2-1. Foxy, are you having us on here? Are you messing us around?
Oh, unless it's Pens.
Pens.
Is it Pens? Yeah, it's Pens.
Yeah,
it's Pens. Oh, right. Okay, I can update you. So, hang on. What was that? Oh, no. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so they both missed. Forest and Wolves both missed the first pen. Forest then scored. Wolves then scored. Forest have just scored. So Forest are 2-1 up on penalties as it stands. Right. So I'll keep up to date with that as well. So Forest at the moment are in the front, in the lead. Oh, 2-2. It's 2-2.
Thank you, Foxy.
Did Wolves miss a penalty in normal time?
Not
that I can see.
No, okay.
No.
Thank you, Lisa. Lisa's keeping us up to date with all of the information. Corners, hope throw-ins, hope free kicks. Keep us all informed.
By the way, on the subject of Wolves, I don't know if anybody saw the Liverpool game the other night when Wolves played Liverpool. I tell you what, that Mateus Nunes looks a player. He looks brilliant.
I'm on about the goal that.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah, I know. It was disgusting.
Unbelievable.
Never saw no lines.
Great to have Jimmy in the chat. Typical Jimmy.
Jimmy.
Always on it, Chris. The worst at updates. He's hammering you already.
And then before he was like...
He's only been on 2 minutes.
I know, and then before he was like, oh, great show. Apart from just being on. I was like, nice one, Jimmy.
Yes, he's left me alone. He's going for you, Chris. Love it.
No Smurf chat tonight.
No. All in on me.
While the penalties are going on, we must take this opportunity to thank everybody, not just the people that subscribed today, everyone over the last 1.5/2 years that have subscribed to us and stuck with us. Come watch the shows week on week, and our members and everyone that's contributed, who's been on the show, all our guests. Everyone, and as well, it's a pity we don't have Martin and Richie with us here tonight, but that goes for the lads as well. Goes from them. So we thank everybody that has been with us on the journey. The journey is not over. We will still continue as we try and march now towards 6K. We haven't had a new target for a while, but thanks to everyone. And make sure you hit the like button for tonight as well. Try and push us up the algorithm. Hopefully more and more people get to experience to enjoy the loaded experience, whatever that is. But any other updates, lads, on the panels?
Well, I haven't done this tonight yet, and I think it's time.
Yes.
Don't forget to like and comment.
Thanks for watching.
And please subscribe.
To be fair, I've seen a few new people in the chat tonight. So click that subscribe. Come and join the Loaded Mag NUFC channel. Whether you're a Newcastle fan or not, I know there's lots of fans that are not supporters of Newcastle, but that are obviously supporters of the channel. Come and join us and be a part of all things Loaded Mag NUFC.
Can we take this comment off? There we go. That's better.
Sorry. Sammy's saying, good question mark. If PIF do buy WWE, Sami Zayn, there was an issue obviously with the country that he was born in, may not want to fight and wrestle in WWE. This is away from football. Great question, Jimmy. I think he'll stay at WWE though. Cole back up for Forest.
Interesting. Can I just say, boys, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Pete, We're 15
Wolves
seconds
miss.
away. Oh, we're 15
Wolves miss.
seconds away from Man City getting knocked out.
We are.
Yeah,
Forest
so it looks like
semi-final? Is that confirmed?
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, Forest are through.
Forest in the semi-finals, along with Newcastle United and Man U.
That's why he's saying Jack Colback. Jack Colback scored the winner, of course.
Oh, okay. Cool.
I tell you what.
Man City are gone. It's over. They're gone.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Come on, boys. I
Yes.
tell you what. This is massive. Massive.
Yeah.
Is it written in the stars?
Forest.
see.
So as things stands, gents, we've got Man United, we've got Nottingham Forest, Newcastle, and Southampton.
Yeah.
Tell you what, if you'd have offered me that a couple of months back,
You'd
I'd
have
have
took
snapped your hand
that
off.
all day, every day.
Yes.
So you
All
won't get
day.
your dream semi-final with Man City, Chris.
No, I know. I don't even have to worry
You
about
take
that now.
Southampton.
I'd take
Boys.
any of them. I'd take any of them.
Boys, we have an unbelievable chance of going to Wembley.
Wembley.
We do.
Yeah.
Forest or Southampton in the semi-finals would be just regardless of whether we think we're going to win or not, and I believe we will, and I'm sure we all believe we will. We would have never imagined that in our wildest dreams that we could potentially get a semi-final like that.
No.
We just wouldn't.
Yeah, tonight, just an example. Tonight, okay, Man City have played a weaker side, if you like, but the likes of Cancelo, Walker, Laporte, Gundogan, Calvin Phillips, Phil Foden, Julian Alvarez, recent World Cup winner, Jack Grealish, and then they brought on the likes of Ake, Akanji, De Bruyne, Haaland, Rodri, and Southampton. What a result for Southampton fans tonight! Fantastic.
They need a bit of joy. They're going through it at the moment. They've been in the Premier League, so but we can pile more misery on them when we get them in the semis. Bring it on.
Well, what's interesting, and we haven't spoken about, lads. We've got 3 opponents there in Forest, Southampton, and Man United. Man United are going to have one eye on Europe. Man United are going to be looking at this, thinking, "No, we want top 4." Forest, and Southampton. Are they both going to be looking and obviously they're going to want a trophy in the a trophy in the cabinet, but are they going to be looking and going, yeah, but league, staying in the league's more important. We haven't really got that problem. We've got all lives focused on this cup. I know we obviously want Europe, don't get me wrong, but
yeah,
3 teams there who
I was going to say one or two people, Jimmy. Dot by design. They've asked if we're staying for the draw. I don't know when the draw's going to be. I don't know if we can stay on that long.
Well, last time it took an hour. I know it took an hour last time.
It's just 6 8.
You know what? The Sky just kind of rumble it on, don't they, to try and just kind of draw it out.
Like us.
No, never. No, not like us. Yeah, let's avoid Man U into Wembley if they even get there. Who knows? We'll just see Man City get knocked out by Southampton. It's coming home. Don't say that because that's linked to England, and they
never comes home.
No,
never comes home.
Let's not say that right now. Look, I'm the biggest England fan out there, but let's not say that right now. We need the draw now. Lisa, you are absolutely right. We need the draw now.
We do our own draw.
We need. You know what we need? And look, Chris will agree with this. We need a Bruno from you, Lisa. We need a Bruno in the chat just to big us up a little bit, just to get us in the flow of all things. Andrew, absolutely top stuff. Thank you for your contributions tonight. Would love Forest in the semi. Feeling it will be manual. Look, Michael, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Like Man United, Southampton, Forest, we can beat them all. We genuinely can beat them all. We really can. And I don't, boys. Look, Daz, Chris. I've never been so confident that we could go and beat the rest of the teams that are in the cup competition to go into the final. Yeah, Bruno.
Bruno.
What are you boys? What are you boys thinking right now?
I'm not getting ahead of myself, really. I do agree. I think we can on our day we can beat them all, and like with Man City out now, yeah, definitely. The worry is the old enemy, Man United. Of course, I think we can beat Southampton. We can beat Forest, no problem. Well, no, it'd be a challenge still, but over 2 legs we have to be stronger than them. And Man United in the final, if it goes that, if the draw works out that way, that will be a challenge. I really don't want to lose that one. If it goes that far, but yeah, I am confident, Pete, that we can go all the way. But let's see the draw first.
Come on.
I'm just geared up, lads. I said it earlier on the show. I'm just not that it's a big thing, but I really, really love an away tie. I'd really love an away tie, because then that means the first leg is at their grounds, and then we'll take them back to St James's Park. And if we go back to St James's Park with a draw, even a narrow defeat, God forbid, even a win, we're seeing it through. Second leg at St James's Park, we're going through.
At the end of this month, both will be over. Both of those legs will be over.
And a comment from Stephen on here. Stephen Nutkin mentioned, the Man U not have a game in between the semi-final legs. They do, but we don't. The way in which it falls, so better. We get a little bit of rest. Whether that helps us or not, you would like to think it does. They have a game in between that. So, injuries, playing regular football, tiredness, all those things could potentially kick in. Dan Burn will be doing all this.
He'll be loving it.
110%. You're right, Craig Lee. None of the teams would want us at all. Thinking we could, David I think we could beat Man United 7-1 every 2 legs. Yeah. I hope you're right. I don't know when the date is for the games, boys. Do you know?
Yeah, it's something about, like, I think it's the week starting the 23rd of January, and the week starting the 30th of January, and then the final is in sometime in February. It's that quick. They're going to come out. It's very quick. So we have Fulham, Crystal Palace, then the first leg, second leg, and then West Ham, I think.
Okay. That's good. Good to know. Tom Dixon, bit of realism. Let's beat Fulham on Sunday. That's the next game. We need to go and win that game. Absolutely right. Draw 10-15. 15 minutes.
Okay. If it's 10-15, we'll stay on. But Pete, we maybe just the linking into the Fulham game. We should mention what's happening on Friday.
Go for it. Whack it up on the screen. So we've got Emilio back for away days on Friday. 7:45 is the is it 7:45? Is it 8 o'clock? I think it might be 7:45. I think it is.
I'll check it. Yeah.
No. I think it is 7:45. Emilio will be on, talking all things Fulham, Newcastle. Emilio is confident at the moment. Fulham are having a great season at this moment in time. I think the only blip really was the result against Newcastle. So Emilio will be back on for away days.
7:45, yeah.
7:45. Don't miss it. We're going to get all the lowdown with regards to Fulham. Paulinho, Mitrovic, the lot. We're going to discuss all of that, tactics. I'm sure we'll have 00 Stato joining us. We're going to get the lot. So come and join us on Friday, 7:45. Don't miss it. It's going to be an absolute cracker, ready for Sunday's big, massive game.
But we might just mention the sponsors as well, because we're going to, if it's 10-15, we're going to hang on for the draw. We have to.
Now, so we can continue.
Exactly. And I think Chris has probably just gone off to ask permission. Can he stay on a bit longer? So I can say that when he's off screen. But right, let's go to our sponsors. A big shout out to shybarnes.com and Simon at shybarnes.com, and the range that Simon does with his own hats, t-shirts, various ones. Go check out the latest on the site, and of course the hoodies as well. Also, you'll see the loaded collection there as well. The loaded t-shirt and the away days one as well. We do love playing away. We have our models. We have Ray, we have Mick, we have Mick and Ray, and we have Would I Eat there, who I've seen a few of the lads on the chat tonight as the comments were going through. And of course, you can get all the loaded gear on shyburns.com. Also, shout out to Russ, and I saw Russ in the chat there as well. I must remove that comment there so we can see this better. Yeah, so there is the radiatorshed.com, and I know from talking to Russ last week, the radiatorshed.com are working on a showroom at the moment. So that is something. If you know anyone that is kitting out a new house or renovating an existing house, it would be worth checking the radiatorshed.com. They are doing up their website as well, so check that out. So get the latest from Russ on that. And if you need to get them things installed in as well, go stick with Russ on with the install work. So check out the latest via Russ on the Radiator Shed. That is it from our sponsors. And if you'd like to become a member as well, it is $1.99 per month, and you get put into the loaded draws, and we'll have loaded draws coming up pretty soon now as well. And of course, this show will be we'll take the MP3 of this show, and we will stick it on to Spotify and iTunes, and we try and get that up about 24 hours or the next day after the show, so you can listen back if you missed a bit, if you could only catch part of the show. But we do like you coming along and joining us live on YouTube or catching it back, and wherever you listen to us on playback, make sure you come and hit that like button, and make sure you're subscribed. Can't be too bad when we've got 5,000 subscribers now, which is absolutely crazy from where we started off, and just then a crazy idea that Martin had, and it's all history now. We've come this far, but that is it from the sponsors and stuff. Pete?
No, we'll go straight back to the chat, and lots and lots of questions. And look, 5,000 subscribers, amazing. Look, just as Dad said, 5 dads that just love Newcastle United, that came together and been able to create 5,000 subscribers. We've all got work elsewhere. We all live in different parts of the country and in other countries in some case, but we come together to create Loaded Mag at NUFC. And you know what? It's been an amazing ride. Loved every single second of it, and to get 5,000 subscribers is a real feel-good moment, I think, for us in the channel.
Yeah,
to get to that point. And like we've just said, thank you to everyone that's helped us on that journey to get us to 5K subscribers. It means the world. I don't think we ever, and Daz, to be fair, we've talked about this, and you've said it so many times. We never ever thought about getting to 5,000 subscribers, and the fact that we've got there, and the fact that we've had so much support from everybody in the chat, and everybody that watches the shows is just amazing. It really, really is. It's a real feel-good moment.
And a shout out to the Toon Review as well, Paul and the crew there, because I know they put a big push in, and a big shout out for us as well in a number of their shows. And if you haven't subscribed to Paul, make sure you subscribe to the Toon Review as well, and the guys there. And our collabs will be back. It's too busy over the transfer window to do anything really, so we'll probably be back again in February. So just so you guys know that as well. But yeah, any more questions in the chat, Pete? I haven't really looked at the chat all night. Chris has been managing it, but
he's still asking for permission.
Yeah, it's not looking well. Chris might not be bad.
He's still asking for permission to stay on. Bless him.
Oh,
Easy.
Right. Let me tell you. I did go and tell the wife that I was going to be a little bit late. Did explain the whole City scenario, but you know what's even worse? And when you were talking before, I was like, "This is really bad." So, guess when the final is? And I knew this anyway, but now we actually looks like we could be getting there. Guess when it is?
Oh, okay, is it your birthday or your anniversary?
Not my birthday.
Oh no, not the missus,
Oh,
not the wife.
Like, maybe we could have a little weekend away in London. Yes. So yeah, I know what
And
I'm
Chris,
tonight.
are you allowed to stay on for the draw?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
It's fine. Hey, I said we haven't won a
Get
trophy since 1969. I said I'm staying.
Yeah,
I'm staying. Yeah.
I'm not fucking leaving.
I might have been gone for the last 2 days. I've only just come in and said then come on a podcast, but I'm staying.
Brilliant. Craig Lee saying, "I'll stay up." Glad for coming and joining us.
Actually, you know what? That's a good point, Chris. We must actually say a big thank you to our wives, because they put up with a lot of us spending so much time doing these podcasts, and and yeah, you gave a prime example of it there, Chris. Well, so shout out to the loaded wives.
Guys, you both know, Martin and Richie know as well. It is not easy coming onto a show and being on for an hour and a half, 2 hours. We're 2 hours and 5 minutes right now. In an evening after we've been at work all day, it is not easy to do that, and you have to have incredibly patient wives to be able to allow you to do what we do. Especially if you've been shopping for 2 days, come back in and then neglecting the wife to come onto a Newcastle podcast to talk Newcastle.
We're not even on, and then I'm saying to her, I'm going to need a little bit longer. Oh, and by the way, I've got great plans for your birthday.
I love it.
She's a lucky woman. She's a lucky woman.
She is, no doubt about it. But no, it is not easy. And so, Daz, you're absolutely right. Massive shout out to the wives of the Loaded Mag NUFC.
And that could be a spin-off show, The Loaded Wives. You never know.
Could be, yeah.
I tell you what.
I don't know if I trust Lisa on camera. I've got to be honest. I really don't like.
That would get some views. There's no doubt about it.
That
would get some views. Case you should be racking up the views, no doubt.
Hey, and you think my singing's bad? Hey, that's all I'll say.
You know what? My wife would just be putting me in the mud for hours and hours on end. So maybe I don't want it to be on camera. Maybe I don't want to, but we'll see. But no, it's a great shout, no doubt about it. Gary said, "What a great time to be a Loaded Mag and reach 5,000 subscribers. Absolutely amazing." Two Coin Phrase said, "Brighton at home would need to be rearranged if we make the final." Interesting.
Yeah, it would. I checked that today. Yeah, that's a BT, so that would have to be arranged. Yeah, sure.
And our the next fixture, which is Fulham at home, they play tomorrow night against Chelsea.
Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah.
Ooh.
Is that the one that Metro is going to miss?
That's the one that Metro misses. Metro misses this game and then is back for the one at St James's Park. So that'd be an interesting one because Chelsea are not good at the moment at all. It's going to be really interesting.
Everywhere.
Draw there.
And really,
guys, he's not suspended against Newcastle. It's against Fulham. Sorry, it's against Chelsea. Not Newcastle. From that point of view. So yeah, Mark Frost, thank you, Mark. 5K, well done, lads. It's honestly, those boys are buzzing. We've been kind of like building it up for the last couple of days. Is that getting to that 5K because it just means a lot to us. Jimmy is always nice and pleasant to Chris. Chris has got
Jimmy, I came back for you, Jimmy. That's why.
He's come back for you, Jimmy, and that is how you repay him.
He came home not for the wife, not for the kids, but for Jimmy to come jump straight on the podcast for Jimmy.
Quality. And I tell you what, the disrespect continues. Great achievement, guys. I don't know what's going on. I don't know whether it's because of the blaze. I don't know what it's because of, but he is on it. He's on it for some reason. But Terrace's
Have I gone deaf?
No, you're on mute, Chris. You were on mute.
My mic's going mad. Can you?
There you now. Oh, in and out, in and out. Terraces, congrats on the fantastic achievement. Excellent. Thank you so much for your support. Foxy, winning the League Cup puts you in the Europa Conference. Yeah, we do go into Europe if we win the Carabao Cup. You're absolutely right. Thank you, Michael. Really appreciate it. Lads, you deserve the 5K and many more, fully warranted. You know what, Michael? I know, it's certainly in the last 6 months, 6 to 8 months, you've been a massive, massive supporter of the channel, always in the chat, always asking fantastic questions. It's people like yourselves and the mods and various other people. I can see Adam McCarthy in the chat. Adam McCarthy's been here since right from the beginning. So I mean, from even before I was part of the channel. It's people like yourselves that are just constantly here to support us that have got us to where we are. Right.
Hang on, Pete. Pete, read this one for Michael.
Mrs.
Oh, we have to read it out for anyone listening back on episode 1.
Look, if you're on about my part, she's already seen the Madison pics. It doesn't even matter. She's already seen it.
They're everywhere.
Everywhere. I'm not really hiding from anything. It's already there. So, Michael, I've just bigged you up and you've just shat on our faces. Thank you very much. Thank you. But yeah, she's already seen all that. I don't know about that one. The Avon makeover. Maybe she has, maybe she's not. I don't know.
Yeah. Look at Jimmy. Look at this. Jimmy.
He is.
Jimmy, you're killing me, mate. You're killing me. And then Jimmy Watt said that I had my mic cut. No, she hasn't cut it. She could if she would, but she hasn't.
Absolutely.
Are you watching the actual draw there, Chris? Do you have
Yeah. So I'll be able to update you because me with my updates, it will be bang up to date.
The second leg before we find out who we're playing.
Oh,
please. It's going to be a good one. But Jimmy Watt says the 26th of Feb. Is that the?
Yeah,
I'm assuming that's the date.
That's the date. That is the date. Yeah, Sunday, the 26th of Feb.
Someone sleeping on the couch tonight? Not me. Yeah. Whether it's Daz or whether it's Chris. I have no idea, but someone's sleeping on the couch tonight.
I'm fed up of being on the air anyway, so whatever.
Yeah. You know what? Netflix needs to get involved in this. The loaded wags. Netflix, Amazon Prime, get involved. We've got the loaded.
2 shows tonight. We've created.
Yeah. And I tell you what, April would be the perfect time to record it. From everyone in Newcastle together. That would be the perfect time to record that. There's no doubt about it. David, thank you so much for supporting the channel. David's had a really, really difficult week. The passing of his mother, after an awful week. This is just great. Love it. And he responded to, I think, to one of my tweets last night, and I mentioned to him and I said, look, it's clearly, clearly the team and the club were looking down on him, and they're putting a performance in to make him smile. And David, massive big up to you. for what is a difficult week, that hopefully the result yesterday made you smile. And I know it did, because you said that to me, but I can't imagine what difficult week you've been. I know that Martin's been in touch with you, but a massive, support from all of us at Loaded Mag NUFC. Strength and guidance to you. If you ever need to chat, you know where we are. Any one of us, just drop a message and we're there to support you. So David, absolute quality, top stuff.
Of course, David was with us on the very early days. He came on one of the Loaded Football Weekly, and then he was on. We started off the Newcastle chat as well. But I was chatting with David during the week as well. But great guy, David, and he's going to come back on the show again later on down the line. So look forward to it. He'd be looking for the match ball then, his third appearance. But something to look forward to as well. Have we got?
Sorry. Southampton at home, and they will play. Please be 2. Yes, we've got Southampton away. We've got Southampton away. Away draw. Back to St James's. Boom.
Yes.
Perfect. That is
perfect. In there.
That is perfect.
So it's Wolves and
Forest. It'll be
Forest. Sorry, not Wolves. Forest and Man United.
Nottingham Forest at home will play Man United.
Okay.
That's such a good draw, that,
Get in there.
Yeah. So Forest play Man United at home, and we play Southampton away.
Boys.
Away draw. It's just
massive.
Yeah.
Massive.
Absolutely class.
First leg week commencing the 23rd of Jan, and second leg week commencing the 30th of Jan. So that will as Dad said earlier, that will disrupt our fixtures a touch, but
yeah, that is class. Jesus, what a draw!
The wife's made up. She's just come in. She's buzzing. She's buzzing.
So if Southampton hadn't turned up tonight, it would have been Man City. So that is class.
Yeah.
Boys, I couldn't have asked for a better draw. I couldn't.
No.
I literally couldn't have asked for a better draw. That is absolutely class.
Get your places booked in London, guys. Potentially. Here's summer.
Sums is buzzing. Well. We're all buzzing.
Sums, get in there. Get in.
She expects it now. It's like,
yeah.
Let's be tuned.
Should summer not be in bed?
Yeah, she should. It might. To be fair, it probably hasn't helped me. Shouting just across the way. What a draw, boys.
Keith was on for about an hour and a half. Missed the short. So go back and watch the show. He was on for about an hour and a half. He gave some great insight on all Newcastle and transfers. So if you haven't watched it, go back and watch it. It'll give you an update on all the players linked.
I did love the bit where the whole Champions League music played in the background. Didn't phase Keith. He didn't even notice.
Yeah, Keith just wasn't having it. That's just like that. And Keith's just like, yeah.
Class.
Boys, look, we've talked about it generally, but your reaction individually to the fact that Southampton, Newcastle, the first leg with Newcastle playing at St James's Park, the second leg. Daz, what are your initial thoughts?
Absolutely delighted, because my fear, as everyone's fear, was that we're going to get Man City, and the Man City we know would turn up, and they have two squads where we have a strong 11, maybe two really good players come off the bench now. That's everyone's fully fit. So that was the danger. Now we're playing Southampton. We've beaten them already this season. I think we have. I remember Mike being pretty upset about it in his match reactions. But we can take Southampton. We have to take Southampton over 2 legs, and that means we're into the final. We are going to the final. We have to. We don't want to be complacent, but we're going to the final, and it'll more than likely be Man United in the final. and we can take them. So buzzing.
Chris, talk to us, my man.
Yeah,
What
so
you
some
thought?
was laughing at Life Goals comment saying, "Let's not count our chickens." I think she's physically thinking of people counting chickens, so she's like in bulk, thinks it's that funny. So, no, yeah, fantastic, mate. You know how much I was saying before about wanting an away draw. Like an away draw for me was like you know, one kind of foot into the final. That was the way I was looking at it. If we can go to Southampton and just, you know, not get battered, you know, whether it be a draw or maybe sneak a win, or even if we're 1-0 behind, we're going to go to St James's Park for the second leg and be like, we're gonna absolutely fly. So yeah, feeling really, really confident now, and yeah, I think I might have to start looking at hotels, boys.
Definitely, there is no doubt about that.
We will have to start looking at hotels, won't we, love?
We. You're going in there, Chris.
It's Lisa's birthday weekend. You know what I mean? So it's all about you, babe. It's all about you.
Yeah, of course it is. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. Foxy says, bloody beautiful Newcastle versus Forest final. That would be, it'd be great to have Mr. Dior.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
On the away days in the build up to the final, talking all things Newcastle Forest. That's for sure. Yes, it is 2 legs. Rocky Woo. It is 2 legs. So we will be coming back to St James's Park afterwards. And hopefully, yes, Saint will be going to Wembley. Russ, legend, super sponsor. What a brilliant show.
Russ.
It's had everything. Brilliant. Congratulations, lad. Thank you. And look, Russ, you're a part of it. Daz and Chris know more than anyone because they obviously speak to you more often, but you are a big part of that because you're a sponsor to our channel. And thank you for being a part of everything Loaded Mag NUFC. That is for sure. And Lisa's broke out into song.
Yeah.
We won't be home for tea. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say on that one.
Pete, I'm feeling guilty now. Someone needs to go to bed. Lisa in the background there in Chris's house. She's saying, "Chris, get off the bed. I want to go to sleep as well."
Yeah, I was gonna break into tell Lisa, we're not gonna be home. Yeah,
definitely.
I've got to get out first.
Just before we wrap it up, we'll get my con for another away days before the final. That is for sure. I'm just rustling through these comments as we work down, and I'm near the bottom now. In fact, I'm there. Will Henderson be able to play against Man United? Interesting. I don't think
he's on loan, isn't he? I doubt it.
I don't think he'll be able to. So that'll be an interest. No, we can't because he's already played for 2 clubs.
Can we run it back to Man U?
Yeah, run it back to Man U, please. Give us a chance of them getting beaten. But it won't happen. He can't play for another club this season, so he will stay at Newcastle. Boys, that's it for me. We've had so many questions that we've not been able to answer, but I want to say, Doug Morris, I think we might have already mentioned it. Thank you for becoming a member of the Loaded Mag NUFC channel. Amazing support. And I don't know if we mentioned before, but Lee Carr,
thank you, mate.
£4.49 super sticker. Thank you for showing your amazing support for the channel as well, and all the other super stickers and donations that come to the channel. We really, really do appreciate it. Boys, we're at 5K. Amazing. 5K. Absolutely amazing. Massive thank you to everyone supporting us. Daz, I don't know if you want to take us home.
Yeah, no, just again to reiterate what Pete said, Chris has said, just thanks to everyone who has subscribed in the past. Thanks for Keith as well for coming on tonight, and then all our past guests, and that also goes for Martin and Richie, as I said earlier. Thanks for Southampton as well for turning up, and sorry about the next day, but the next 2 legs. But we're going to that final. Let's finish off. Make sure you tune into us on Friday. We have the away days with Fulham and the College Shock, and we'll be back with the reaction show on Sunday for that as well. And that is it. I think we have to go out with our Dan Byrne mega mix again and say goodnight to everyone. You like this one, Summer? Good night, everyone. Thanks for watching. Hit that like on the way out. Good luck. Bye-bye.
Hey, strong guy! You never ever beat the man! Hey, strong guy! You never ever beat the man! Hey, strong guy! Hey, strong guy! You never ever beat the man!